Coming up next on Who's Views, the Who-tastic panel discuss The 10th Planet, starring William Hartnell as Doctor.
You are watching Cyber Chat on Who's Views. You will subscribe.
Get ready, everybody, because we will be shortly receiving visitors. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Who's Views Reviews. As you can see, I'm here with Paul. I'm here with George. Isn't this great, guys? Because here we are. It's a biggie for our cyber season. It's the first one, isn't it? Oh, wow.
The very first one, yeah. For very first one for two things, yeah. So
it is, isn't it? So important in Doctor Who history, this particular story.
3 in a way, actually. When I watched it yesterday, something else suddenly struck me, which is a bit of a landmark about this story as well.
Oh, really? Are you going to leave us hanging, or
do you want me to share my thoughts now?
Hold on to it.
Okay.
Let's come back to it.
Off camera.
Let's hold on to it for just a second as we say hello to everybody that's watching us. Hello. Yes, welcome to our review of The 10th Planet, which is part of our cyber celebrations. The Cybermen are 60 years old in 2026, and we're getting in early with this special first part of a whole year worth of celebrations as we look at all things cyber. There you go. How exciting is that? Welcome. Nice to see you all. Please make sure you give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, all the usual stuff. But I want to say a huge thank you, as usual, to Stephen Braddock, guys, because he sent us another bit of artwork for himself. This one, inspired by that classic picture. Now that takes me right back to being a boy, I tell you.
Well, that's what I had handy here to show you.
Oh, fabulous. Let's do a merge now. But thank you for that, Stephen. That's cool. Thank you so much.
It's based on this, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. Which is my first time I saw 10th Planet Cyberman when I was about 6. So amazing stuff. Yeah.
And didn't that image make the cover of the Target novel as well?
I think it did as well, yeah. So
yes, there we go.
We'll come to that. And I also want to say a huge thank you to Adrian Haythorne for sending us his cartoon here. So thank you very much. It's really cool. I love it. Thanks, Adrian. Really, really appreciate it.
It's more of a moon-based accordion, though, to be fair. But,
but I think he's captured Hartnell brilliantly.
He certainly has, yes.
Yes, and I hope the royalties check is on the way to Roberta Tovey.
All right, so thank you everybody for joining us. It's great to see you. We really, really want to know what you think of the 10th Planet as we get through all this. Stephen is with us saying, thanks everyone. Yes, it's such an iconic scene, an iconic photograph, absolutely. And Domgo is saying to us, ooh, 10th Planet, one of my faves. And there he is with Mr. Happy.
He's not in this, is he? He's not.
No. I don't think anybody's happy in the 10th Planet.
No.
Is in Cybermen are chilling, says Paul Richards. They absolutely are. And we're going to be explaining exactly why as we go through this. So let's grab hold of something, everybody. Let's go back to 1966, shall we? More precisely, let's go back to the 8th to the 29th of October 1966, which is, of course, when the 10th Planet was first broadcast on BBC One. Written by Kit Badler and with Jerry Davis, who was also script editing, or the story editor, as they called it back then as well. Directed by Derek Martin, as we've spoken about him quite a while at the moment, haven't we? And produced by Innes Lloyd. As we've said, yes, very important story for Doctor Who fans, this, even to this very day. If you are a brand new Doctor Who fan and you've never seen the 10th Planet, you've got to go and hunt it down. I believe it's on iPlayer, but you can still go and get your DVD copies, can't they, guys?
Yeah, you can. I rewatched it on iPlayer to see what the quality was like, and it wasn't that great, I have to say. A lot of the 60s episodes are a bit grainy, to say the least.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So obviously they're trying to get you to buy the physical media rather than watch it on the telly. But
yeah, because iPlayer uses a relatively low bit rate and bandwidth, I think they just went for the unrestored copies of everything because there just wasn't the physical space to put the lovely spruced up versions on. And as
But
you
I
say,
watched some of Reign of Terror, and some of that was appalling, honestly.
Was it really?
It was like watching a bootleg video from the 80s. It really was, wasn't it?
I've just got this vision now in my head of this iPlayer being this big marketed thing, and it's actually some poor fellas putting in the VHS when somebody orders it.
Probably, yeah.
God, I wish you'd rewind the tape.
The lovely Venetian blind effect that someone's chewed your tape. Stuff, yeah.
Oh, that's quite good. I think we need to actually investigate that. But it's great to see you all joining us this evening. Thank you. Bill Larry's with us saying Cybermen were a look to the future of replacing the body parts. That's why the Cybermen always scare me. We mentioned this in Cyber Chat last week, but it's coming true, isn't it? And I still think it was Kit Pedler seeing that and reacting to that as the scientist he was just amazing. Absolutely fantastic. Spot on. And PTA's with us. Hello, Paul Thomas Ashworth. Thank you so very much for your super chat. I only discovered the Cybermen from the Troughton era. They terrified me to death. Listening, are you, RTD, allegedly? We don't want any mention of them tonight.
No.
Absolutely not.
They'll just spoil the fun. Let's not.
It would spoil the fun. Yes, this is all about proper Doctor Who tonight. Yeah, this biggie. And David, hello, David. Welcome to Who's Views. Nice to see you. Hello, panel. Hope you're well. Got the story on in the background for tonight. I still have the VHS I got off eBay before the DVD was released. Oh,
that's got that lovely, bizarre reconstruction for part 4 on it, hasn't it? Which
it has. Yeah. Which they transferred over to the DVD. I noticed when I was watching the DVD on this. I hadn't seen it on the options before, but I noticed it and I thought, oh, do I really want to watch that again? Because it was quite staggery, if I remember correctly.
It was a bit, quite stilted.
I have to say, I do think the animated version of episode 4 that's on the DVD is one of the few instances where animation actually fits in really well, and it's a good reconstruction of the episode.
It's lovely, actually, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't find it too jarring either. I find it quite easy to watch in succession with the other episodes. Yeah.
And as far as I'm aware, they've whoever originated it very closely followed the camera script, so all the camera angles, all the cuts, and everything match in with what the original episode would have been, which I totally agree. The way to do it.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, because if you look at these, they've obviously looked at the photographs that were available as well. You know, the screen grabs, if you like, of what was going on in the episode. And this is the sort of animation, Who viewers, I can watch. Not like the new stuff that's coming in recently. And, we've all seen what's going on with the Savages next. But look at this. Shading is gorgeous. The way things are. I mean, this one, look at that.
Yeah, but coming down to an even more basic level, William Hartnell looks like William Hartnell.
Yes,
so, the likenesses of the cast are really good, aren't they?
We're off to a flying start there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because you know what you're doing. I mean, what happened to this animation? Why did they go with did they cost too much? But I mean, that was it. When you get to that bit on the DVD and there's this animation suddenly, as I say, I'm comfortable with it because I can watch it. It looks good.
I think actually this version's cheaper than what we're getting now, I think, to be honest. But certainly the like Evil Daleks, Macroterra, that kind of stuff. I think it was cheaper than those ones, and it was only one episode as well, not a whole story.
Oh,
which they go back and do now. They do the whole story in black and white animation, wouldn't they? Even though we got 3 parts of it.
Yeah. I just want to know what happened to that episode 4. What happened between Blue Peter and the archive? What went on? I don't know. Whoops.
Good job.
Peter Purvis has got it. That's the thing. So,
Leslie Judge, why are you leaving so early? For the pension, dear. Oh no, I jest. Mark is with us. Mark Greaves, nice to see you. 10th Planet was the first Target book I bought, and even though other books were lost over time, I still have it safe and sound. And Paul Stenford saying, I love the idea of the 10th Planet Cybermen having cloth over their faces so you can see the structure of the human face underneath. That with their human hands make them a classic design. Do you know, it's brilliant, isn't it, how that design of Cybermen is being appreciated more now. It really, really is. And we'll go back to that one, because this picture that we've just talked about, this one is so special to me because, again, like you, Paul, this was the first time I saw a Cyberman, and I was fascinated. And I was fascinated by the fact it had a cloth face and you could see the eye. That was so scary as a 6-year-old, 5, 6, whatever it was. Absolutely beautiful.
The whole thing's got a more Frankenstein feel about it, which works really well, don't you think?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
But, I don't think you get the full impact of them from photographs alone. It's when you see, the actual episodes. Or I think the first time I saw extracts from the 10th Planet featuring the Cybermen was that Cyberman compilation VHS tape with the missing Cyberman episode.
Oh, the Cyber Years, yeah.
Oh, the Cyber Years, yeah.
There were a couple of clips on that, weren't there?
Mm.
And I remember watching that and thinking, crikey, they are really eerie.
Yes.
And they look like they've come out of very badly botched surgery.
Yeah. So much so they had to use resources like sellotape to keep their heads on, but that's another story.
Paul loved. Do you know what? For years, Who viewers, I have never seen the sellotape until that one there pointed it out, and then this time round, reviewing it for this show, I saw it and I thought, "Oh, thank you very much."
It doesn't bother me because I think it's brilliant because it looks superb. Anyway, the sellotape's clear. It's not. You can't.
Yes.
You have to look for it. That's the thing. You know what I mean?
You wouldn't have seen it on their tellies back in the 60s either, would you?
No.
Do you know what I mean? Goodness knows what it's going to look like when and if they get around to converting it into the Blu-ray format for a box set or whatever they're going to do with those things.
Yeah.
But I just want to point out as well that, as you're saying in the chat as well, that this was hugely important for a certain generation. Again, I remember devouring this as a boy, firstly, in the old W.H. Allen hardback forms, because it was in the school library. Then it was in my local library, and I had this one out a hell of a lot, I have to tell you, every Friday when my mother used to take me to the library. Absolutely. This book... Wow, and that cover, guys.
Mm-hmm.
And the back cover as well, George,
Yes.
you pointed out last time we did the cyber chat, and the back cover is brilliant as well with the lamp firing as well. That's superb. And we used that in the Capaldi episode, remember, when they had the Return of the Cybermen. It's great. Yeah.
But isn't that gorgeous? The back covers were
Well,
gorgeous.
I'm mature enough to have bought that book when it was very first published. And I remember, like all the Target books, devouring it and being slightly puzzled at it because Jerry Davis shifted the time frame forward because the book's set in the year 2000.
Yes, it is, isn't it? Yeah.
And Ben and Polly are from the 70s, not the 60s in the book.
Yeah,
it explicitly says they're from the 1970s.
I tend to overlook that. I started to read it again actually because the watching the DVD, it got me so. I've watched it 3 times for this show actually, everybody, just to make sure I hadn't missed anything. Like George obviously has something else there for me, and then I started to read this again, and I went, I don't remember that.
And I can remember tying it, Jerry Davis tying it in with the scene where Ben's locked up in the projection room. And he uses the projector to blind the Cyberman. Yeah. In the book, the film that's running through the projector is The Man with the Golden Gun, which was, when the book was published, the new James Bond film.
Oh, I don't remember that at all. Okay, I'm going to get to that, obviously, if I carry on reading it. Julianne's with us. Hello, Julianne. Lovely. How are you? I watched it on iPlayer this morning. I agree, picture quality is a bit crappy, but not as bad as the Savages animation. Let's not talk about that
Good
today.
point. Yeah.
That gave me a headache earlier on today. We'll come back to that at some other point in the far future. We've got Domgo. The Mondasian outfit should never have changed, especially the gloves and the balaclavas. Absolutely terrifying. And Stephen Braddock again saying to us, I found it amazing. The Doctor already knew of Mondas. I wonder how, and did he know it was populated by Cybermen? Well, yeah, because he said, we're going to get visitors.
Yeah.
So he knew about the Cybermen. But I suppose a Time Lord, although we didn't know it then, I suppose he would. I love that hint, that extra hint of mystery here in this one, to be able to say that the Doctor's aware of Mondas because he would have done the history, he would have studied it, he might have even been around it at the time at the Academy, and he's aware of
her and Susan may have met the Cybermen before they arrived in Totter's Lane, who knows?
Or been on Mondas before the Mondasians became Cybermen.
Yeah, exactly. So the mind boggles, doesn't it?
Yeah. We're going to get comments about all that going on. Carwin Morris is saying to us, hiya, Carwin. 10th Planet is a great outing for Ben. He really shines as a companion in the story, and he totally steps up. And from grief, killing a Cyberman, and where there's life, there's the hope line. Ben's lovely, isn't he?
Oh, he's great. I think it's a shame. that they didn't have more time together, just the two of them. As much as I love Jamie, they only get a few stories together, and then Jamie comes along and the dynamic changes. But they work really well together, and you can't tell, because they're all professional, that they don't get on. I mean, Hartnell and Ben and Paul, so that it doesn't show,
Yes, because Annika Wills has been very open in interviews saying that the relatively brief time that she worked with William Hartnell, she found him very, very difficult to work with.
Yes.
But as you said, it just does not show on screen at all.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. And
Hartnell's illness doesn't show either. He's on he's on full cylinder, isn't he? He's really going for it,
Yeah. Well, I mean, at the very last moment, he had to bow out of episode 3 because he came down with bronchitis.
Yeah.
And episode 3 was hasty, and all the stuff that the Doctor was going to do, Ben did.
Yeah.
And then some of the dialogue was shared with Barclay, wasn't there, as well?
Yeah.
And then when Hartnell came back for episode 4, and thank goodness he did, he still wasn't up to full strength.
But you really can't tell, can you?
Yeah, he was determined to, for his final one to give it his all as best he possibly could, and
you know what, he blooming well does, because he is cracking in this. I mean, what a performance from Mr. Hartnell in this one. He's aware it's his last one. He's going out on a real high, and such an important story. I mean, he couldn't possibly have known that the Cybermen were going to return. There was no way he could have known that.
Yeah. As we know, this was the second story of season 4, but The Smugglers was filmed in the preceding recording block and held over. And, Hartnell was basically engaged as the guest star for one story in his own show to write him out.
Yeah. It must have been the nicest of times.
So that could not have been a good atmosphere for him. But what's fascinating is when, the original draft of the script for the 10th Planet surfaced a few years back, and the changeover at the end of episode 4 isn't there. The original script ends with them just piling back into the TARDIS and leaving.
As usual.
Yeah. So, it wasn't originally planned as a handover story. But the decision was obviously made, right, we're going to do it on this one.
Well, they had to. Looking back, it must have been very difficult for them, but they had to. Bill had his day, God bless him. Dalek Lives Matter is saying to us, is episode 4 not available at all?
Well, the regeneration clip survives.
Yeah.
And then there's the 8mm silent film that I believe a viewer in Australia pointed a cine camera at a TV screen and filmed a few extracts.
Is that on the DVD as well?
They are, yeah. I mean, to me, the best thing about that is you get the rest of the regeneration footage. The pretty much the full sequence in the TARDIS, not just the changeover shot itself.
I know. It's so sad, isn't it?
Yes, it has to be said that that fan who filmed the TV screen back in the day, and thank you so much for doing it after all these years, obviously had a bit of a thing for Annika Wills, because she features very heavily in all the clips that survive.
I wonder, had if it came from Australia, 10th Planet been shown a number of times, because he knew, apart from Annika Wills, obviously, he knew about important parts of the story, like the regeneration and things like that, to film it, because you wouldn't have your camera handy just there to film something, would you, if it was coming,
Yeah, I mean, it's clear that, whoever filmed it had seen it before and had an idea of what to go for in his head as it rolled out on the screen.
Yeah. It's a shame Dalek Lives Matter. I mean, it's a terrible story that we have been told about over the years. It was available for the children's TV show Blue Peter on BBC One. They called that one because they were doing a Doctor Who. It was 1981, wasn't it, for the 5 Faces of Doctor Who?
No, it was earlier than that. It was because they kept recycling the same feature. It was something like 72 or 73 that they originally borrowed the print from BBC Enterprises.
And what happened is, apparently, it didn't get back to Enterprises, which is now Studios. So hence my ongoing joke over all these years of somebody just saying, "Whoops, it's fits my handbag."
Well, I mean that was the print of episode 4 that Enterprises held, along with 1 to 3, because up to that point they had the complete story. And the episodes 1 to 3 that still survive are the Enterprise prints that managed to be saved before they got junked. But several additional prints were made for sales around the world, And it's interesting that another copy of, was it episode 2 or episode 3 of the 10th Planet surfaced alongside the existing Enterprise print that was found. So if an extra print of one of the existing episodes can be found, there's always a possibility that one of the prints of episode 4 is going to surface.
I'm convinced it's with a private collector. I really am. I'm absolutely convinced. Who watches it on his DVD and then puts his own
and then twirls his moustache. Whatever.
Yes.
But it's interesting. This is the most hoaxed episode to return, and you guys probably remember when JNT got Michael Craze to do the linking material for the start of the VHS. Saying it's been returned, and it wasn't.
I wonder where that is. I've never seen that. Listen, we've got Legion of James here saying the way the Cybermen spoke, just opening their mouth, and the synth voice was truly chilling. The Mondas Cybermen, to me, are the most disturbing, especially for their time. And then Steve Braddock is saying to us, they dropped Planet 55 as they were about to start Underwater Menace when the BBC said, no more, you're too expensive. And what a big mistake it was. Yeah. I thought money had something to do with it. Guys, Eddie's with us as well. This was the only time the Cybermen had names. Yes. I still can't get over that, but it shows how early in their development they are.
Yeah,
Cybermen. You know,
it's not Frank and Peter, is it? It's probably like Cybermen.
But it does bring out that sort of humanity side to them that they've still got. And again, it adds to that horrific stance that these creatures were humanoid. It's horrific, but it's also terribly sad, isn't it?
Well, there's more flesh and blood material in the Cybermen and 10th Planet than any other. I mean, you see the human hands. You can quite clearly see what look like very dead eyes because of the dark makeup in the eye sockets, that sort of thing. You can see muscle movement as they move around and walk and all that sort of thing, which you don't in any other iteration of them.
No, it's true. SG saying to us, amazing what you can do with some jersey, a hairdryer, and a sellotape. It absolutely is. Yeah. And the 10th Planet Cybermen was still partly human. Later, they became more like full robots. And Michael Q is saying to us, a Cyberman with a nose. Now, you're talking to the wrong generation about that. Because we grew up with a toy that had a nose. We loved him.
We love a cyber nose. Yeah.
It was brilliant. Stay tuned with us on that. We've got more about that coming up as part of this whole series. Thank you very much for joining us. There's lots of you in the chat with your memories and your comments about the 10th Planet and what you're thinking of it. So yeah, we've got Ron Sapp here with us. Hello, Ron. Nice to see you. Snowed and gonna touch snow. Snowed in, I'm gonna touch snow. Oh, bless you. Where are you in the world then? Where are you? Have you been snowed in? Is it out like the Arctic out there? Is it a real gale out there? Is it?
I have to say, one of my favorite bits of 10th Planet is how well they do the South Pole. Isn't that superb?
Yes.
In the studio, amazing, isn't it?
It's very well realized in Ealing Studios. The one thing, and yes, this is the nitpick I'm going for now that I did think when I watched it yesterday, is Polly steps out into the South Pole, barefaced, bare hands, no frostbite, no instant hypothermia. She's just standing around. It's like, I think you need a bit more temperature and weather protection than that.
She's trying not to eat the polystyrene at the same time.
Exactly. Hello, Daryl. Daryl Joyce is with us, artist extraordinaire. How are you, Daryl? Lovely to see you. Thanks for joining us this evening. He's saying the revamped Mondasian Cybermen of the Capaldi area are not a patch on the originals of 1966. I have to agree. I mean, they were a one-off. And with all the stuff they've got today, as they proved when they brought those versions back, or a similar version back, is that they just used the modern materials, and it's not quite the same, is it?
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with Daryl, but in their defense, at least they stayed true to the original design. And, rather than coming up with a much weaker reworking of it.
They did chicken out making the lamp shorter, which is a shame. It gives it more presence because they're much taller with this lamp as well.
Yes.
You know,
got some great memories here, everybody, as well. We've got Julianne saying to us, I bought the Target novel through the Chip Book Club at school.
Oh God!
And Graham is saying to us, hi Graham, I like the Cybermen in those cloaks. They were very snug.
Yes, there is that lovely shot where the three of them in the Arctic cloaks stomp off, and the third one has problems getting his hood to come over. They don't do a new. He's really struggling with it, and nobody shouts "cut." We'll do that again.
Surprise, surprise! But they do look brilliant, don't they? I mean, look at them. I mean, just wow! And I just love the fact that any of the kids coming along and being introduced to the sort of robotized versions that the Cybermen have become in modern Who. For more of that, go and look at our show we did last week, Cyber Chat, of our opinions on those. But that is undoubtedly a Cyberman. You know, the kids would recognize that immediately. Yes. That's a Cyberman. Isn't that fantastic? The evolution hasn't gone that far wrong over the original years.
Yeah. And one thing I think is very good about them is, even though they're very similar, they're not identical to each other. And, you know, depending on how they move, I think one of the things that makes them so creepy is their faces look malformed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true, actually, isn't it?
I always used to think they were wearing striped pajamas underneath their outfits, so they're like stripy, you know, kind of.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
Less. Oh no, but that's great. Lots of you in the chat. Thank you. Yes. Graham wants to know: isn't Cutler a total git?
Yeah. Played brilliantly by Robert Beatty, though, isn't he?
Yes.
Who
was a very high-profile actor at that time. You know, he must have been quite a coup getting him onto the show.
Yeah, and he worked with Hartnell before in a couple of movies, hasn't he? As well. I think
Yeah. So I mean, it must have been nice for Hartnell to have somebody that he could bounce off for his last one, because he would have been upset that this was his last story, of course.
Oh yeah.
He would have been, and he would have been gutted that, and he would have felt that wrench. Do you know what? The only thing that gets me about the 10th Planet is there are certain scenes where I don't like all the shouting over each other.
Yeah.
And Hartnell's leading that. He's very loud, and you've got the Cyberman talking. You've got the staff of the base talking, and it's all. I said, hang on a minute, it's getting a bit. And I'm not sure that was supposed to happen, to be honest. You know, I don't know what you guys make of all
that. There probably was a better way of doing that. I think it was probably done to convey the sense of urgency, the antagonism in the atmosphere at Snowcap. You know, when the Cybermen were there, that, you know, nerves were snapping and things were at a fever point. And I think to that end, it does it okay. The one thing I think is a bit odd, looking at it a critical eye, is there's some very contrived camera shots. I mean, there's one in particular where one of the Cybermen does a full-on catalogue pose with one leg
with his leg up.
One leg at 45 degrees on the step. That's it. That's exactly it. So the camera can get the shot of Cutler, you know, coming to behind him.
Cyberman at CNA again. That's it. Yeah.
What the best dressed Cyberman was wearing that season. Absolutely. Yeah. I thought that was a very bizarre editorial choice there, or directorial choice rather, but very odd.
But obviously they're trying to show what Cutler's up to behind him.
Yes.
Gun.
And because of the blocking and the set and camera availability, I suppose that's the only way to do it. But it just looks so contrived when it's on screen.
It really
a crash zoom between the legs is interesting.
Stephen Braddock is saying, I love the music with the Cybermen marching across the snow. I like the music as well, because it's all stock music. We know that. It's all from the library. But there's one particular one that has just really, as I've watched it several times over the last few days, do you know the bit where the TARDIS silently materializes? I'm sure that's from the Doctor Who and the Daleks movies. It sounds exactly though it's been lifted from the Peter Cushing film. Go and listen to it again. That particular point where the TARDIS materialized, I just thought, hang on a minute, this is Peter Cushing about to arrive here. It's brilliant.
If you want the cue of the Cybermen marching across the snow, which, you know, I always know as the cyber theme because it was used in the 60s for the Cybermen, is called Space Adventure Part 2. And I'm sure you can find it online, no problem.
Ooh, fingers crossed, because that's quite old now, but it's brilliant actually. It's really, really good. Roy Skelton did an awesome job of voicing the Cybermen as Eddie. He was a really nice guy, a real.
And it was just him on this one. There's no one else, is there?
Him. Yeah, it's just him. He's all over the shop. Here's Mark A. Wright saying to us what we said. Lest we forget the Doctor Who Monthly April Fool's spoof when the announced episode 4 had been found and colorized along with the rest of the story. I believed it was true for years. Yeah, and I bet like you were waiting for the Phoenix Rises for bloody years as well, weren't you? Do you remember that? Goodness me. Happy days from Doctor Who Monthly there. Bless them. May they rest in peace. I love the way, says Graham, that Ben calls all the Cybermen geezers. Never to happen again.
Cyber geezers, yeah.
Cyber geezers, I know. What else? Oh, there's loads of you in the chat. Thank you for joining us. Mark is asking us, but JT, back in the days of Hartnell and Troughton, who decided if it was time to change the Doctor? The actor wanting to leave or the BBC wanting to change? Well, obviously, in this case of Hartnell, it was the BBC. Bless him, because he was becoming more irascible and very difficult to work with. Apparently, none of us knew him, so apparently, and also there was the ratings issue, and people were just getting a little bit.
But I think he had ill health as well, and I think that came out later on that he was very unwell. So to give him a bit of slack, you know.
His health had deteriorated to the point where he physically couldn't keep up with the schedule, and they just couldn't make any sort of allowances or accommodations for him. I know after Hartnell had left the role, to confirm this, he replied to a fan letter he had. And in that fan letter, which has been published since, he said, "I did not give the part up willingly."
Was that the late Ian McLaughlin's letter, was it? Because I remember seeing that.
I can't remember. It probably was, but I remember reading Hartnell's reply. And, it's very saddening to read that, obviously, and this was a good 3-4 years after he'd given up the role, that, it was still heavy in his heart. And he said that, the very words he used was, "I did not give up the part willingly."
Oh, it's sad, but I can understand why the BBC made the move, because it was either that or finish the series. But I hope at some point Hartnell was able to understand just how successful he made it, because 3 other people followed him. In his lifetime. Amazing.
A very long time back at a Doctor Who convention in about 1980 or 81, I met Heather Hartnell.
Oh, bless her. Yeah, right. Okay.
And she said that her words were, "Bill would be so thrilled to see this today, to know that he started this."
And he did, didn't he?
He wouldn't be so happy now, but that's another story.
That's another story. He'd also be ancient now, let's face it.
He would be, yeah.
Yokai63, nice to see you. This is a very atmospheric and scary Arctic story. Watch this alongside the original The Thing from Another World. It's all frozen fun. Too cold for me. I can only take a little bit at a time. And Noodle Arms, hiya. I'll admit I've not watched this story before, so I watched part 1 only a few minutes ago. I'm enjoying it so far. These Cybermen seem more unnerving. It's because they are still in touch with their humanity. They are written brilliantly for this first one as well, isn't it? They're not the robotic things that they can evolve into. They are humans encased in all this technology.
I think this is the eeriest iteration of the Cybermen there's ever been.
Yeah. Well, they're really scary, aren't they? Can you imagine what? Again, I'm going to say it. The kids that were watching at the time must have been thrilled.
Well, you can see why they cottoned on and people liked them, because obviously they carried on, and you can see why, because this is a great sort of first appearance of the Cybermen, don't you think?
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
Well,
absolutely.
I mean, as we said last week, the moon base, which, thinking about it, was only a few months after this.
Yeah,
it is a straight remake of this story.
It is, even down to some of the shots.
Yeah, instead of the South Pole, it's the moon.
Yeah,
it's a great way to reintroduce them, really, isn't it, in the new form? But again, that must have been the kids at the time wouldn't have cared either. It was these monsters back, and they were slightly different. And look at them, and they're brilliant. The snow, says SG, at one point was thrown in Michael Craze's face by someone on the crew who later became his wife. That's one of those lovely Doctor Who stories I love.
Yeah.
Yes. And he was recovering from an operation on his nose, wasn't he? His nose was very, very delicate, and she threw a handful of shredded polystyrene, and the big fan, which was creating the blizzard, caught it, and it went straight up his nose as he was recovering from this operation. And
through that, love blossomed.
Yeah.
How weird. But anyway,
that's how you flirted with people in the 60s. That's why.
Yeah, throw a load of fake snow at them. Mudcrab, I love the way that from the Cyberman point of view, their plan is very rational, and they are completely confused why the humans on the base don't want to come with them. Yeah, because they think they're saving the humankind, don't they? They've come back to save them. and make them like them. And they think that's a great big, oh, you should be patting us on the back and saying thank you very much.
Yeah.
And
then build us that wonderful emotions, love, pride, hate, fear speech is superb. Iconic, brilliantly done. Yeah,
I still get goosebumps when I watch that in the 10th Planet, because of course I was introduced to that in Earthshock.
Yeah, weren't we all? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a real case of like, that there it is. That's the moment Hartnell says it. It's been recorded there. David Harding, the first time I saw an original Cyberman, I thought they looked really crappy, but their look really grew on me, and their returning Capaldi story finally made them scary. I see again. I love the fact that they are absolutely recognizable and so successful, and now we've got the action figures of them as well. As I say, the kids will recognize them as Cybermen. I think it's absolutely, what a great design there.
Oh yeah,
Sandra Reed. Let's give her a big shout out. What a clever woman, doing it on 10p or whatever the money was back then. Did
she design the second Cybermen as well, or just the first one?
She did, didn't she? I'm sure she did.
I think she did. Yeah.
Yeah, she did. Yeah. And then that was it, wasn't it? She did the second one, and then they built on that one. But yeah. Craig saying to us, I was just young enough to remember the 10th Planet. So that when their second story, The Moonbase, came out, I asked my mum what the silver creatures were. Okay. That's the problem with texting, isn't it, really? But yeah, thanks, Craig. we get the drift on that. You were just young enough to watch them when they came out. Wow. Fantastic.
I'm impressed you got to see all the Moonbase as well. Fantastic.
Yeah. I think he was comparing. Oh, they're the same as the 10th Planet Cybermen or something like that. But there we go. Thank you for that one, mate. What else we got? Yeah, John Steed saying to us, it's so sad very few of the actors and crew are still with us from this story. Yeah, really, really, really. And Paul Stenterford, nice to see you. The way that the Cybermen in the story speak by opening their mouths wide while their speech is spoken, I find very effective. It just emphasizes how different from human-like they've become.
It's a great choice, because I think they carry it on with the Moonbase one. The letterbox pops open, don't they? So it's a similar idea. What I did notice this time around was one of the Cybermen kept moving his lips a bit while the sound was going. I don't know that. So they kept like a spaghetti western that was badly dubbed a little bit.
Oh gosh, I haven't noticed that. I'll have to go and look at that again. See, he's pointing out something else to me now.
But I love all that. It's great, because obviously they made a decision in rehearsal just to do that. And then someone forgot, it happens.
Alan Collins, hello, not seen you on the show before. Welcome to Who's Views. Great to see you. And he is pointing out that the serial started with 5.5 million views and it rose to 7.5 million for episode 4. So there was a lot of interest in what were they going to do. And I think the word of mouth got around the kids as well. Have you seen these new baddies? Wow.
Also, it was in the papers he was reading as well, wasn't it? Yeah.
Have the BBC released the 59-year figures yet?
They wouldn't dare, would they, everybody? They wouldn't dare. And then there's this point here as well that has been a science fiction favorite for a number of years now that Steve Braddock is pointing out to us. I'm watching it again. I suddenly realized that the astronaut suits on Zeus went on to appear in Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back on the bounty hunter Lizard Bosk. So I know it was bright yellow. It's a great little fact, this, isn't it? And I'm just so impressed that the costumes were still around. So let's have a look. This is the famous one, isn't it? Again, this is a picture I think most of us grew up with.
It's L. Cameron's wearing the costume, isn't it?
Yeah, bless him. Look at him there. So there's the costume there. Here they are again here as well. Having just seen the future of Doctor Who. That's what that is there. But that has to be the iconic one for me. I love that picture. And then we zoosh forward.
Yeah, they are.
And in pristine, it shows you.
L. Cameron's regenerated.
In the meantime, didn't they also appear in 2001: A Space Odyssey?
I'm not sure on that one. I have heard.
I seem to think that. They also cropped up in 2001: A Space Odyssey.
I think they're a wheel in space as well. When I watched the reconstructions run recently, I think the astronauts on that have a similar costume as well. So it might be the same story.
love the way that they survived. Because what was that? So that would have been the late 70s, early 80s for the Empire Strike Back?
1983?
It was
80 it was 80.
Yeah, you must have filmed it in the late 70s.
Yeah. But
and it's still pristine condition by the look of it. It shows that they looked after these things,
Well, they would have been hired in from a costumier, wouldn't they?
Possibly, but they looked after them, and that's absolutely brilliant. What else have we got there? Dalek Lives Matter is saying the more I was Hartnell's era, the more I feel like he is the Doctor. The more I was
I
Hartnell's
think
era.
watch. He's watch.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
The more I watch Hartnell's era, the more he is the Doctor. And we won't have anything said against him on this show at all, because without him, we wouldn't be here. Let's face it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And to an extent to Troughton as well. But my God, they were brilliant, were they? Absolutely brilliant. Thank you, Mark Reeves, for your super chat. Thank you for a moving answer. This is why we all love Who's Views. Great banter, great people, and fills in gaps of knowledge in our favourite show. Oh, thank you for that, Mark. That's really nice of you. And thank you for your super chat. William Hartnell will always be the Doctor to me. He's great in this story, as he is throughout his era. He was a wonderful actor and a fantastic Doctor, says Paul Stenterford. Well, here. And as we alluded to before, my God, these episodes, this story, wow. I mean, that is a stellar performance. I'm watching this and I'm thinking, oh, you are really going for it here, mister. Yeah. He really is, isn't he? And the fact he's not well as well, and you, as you were saying, Paul, you can't tell. Wow.
He's got some lovely comic moments as well, especially at the very start with Cutler when they have an argument.
Yes.
And the soldier, don't call me Pop, and all that kind of stuff. And then he goes on about his hair and his face and all that. It's brilliant, very funny.
And I love that line where he says, "Can you speak up? I'm deaf," because the guy's shouting at me.
So,
that's such a Doctor thing to do.
I do think it's a great shame that being his final one, and he originated the role. He was absolutely brilliant in it. He doesn't get a big final scene to send him off. He staggers out of like the prison cell thing in the cyber ship.
Yeah.
He mumbles a couple of lines, and his final words in character are "Stay warm, my dear." Yeah. And then the next time we see him, he's standing at the console. Unlike Troughton, who has his big speech with the Time Lords, or John Pertwee, who has that very moving scene with Liz Sladen, or Tom going out on a smile and all that sort of thing. That he doesn't get that sort of final last salute that he's so richly deserved.
It's true. It's probably down to the fact he wasn't well, because when he came back to Big Four, he wasn't well, was he? And the fact that I genuinely believe the fact that he nearly stumbles into a camera shows.
Yeah,
he wasn't. His equilibrium was not quite there.
Yeah,
bless him.
He also had a stunt double for all the bits. Ealing, didn't he, for the snow scenes? That was
he didn't do that at all.
Yeah. Robert Beattie, who played General Cutler, says Robin Calvert. Yes, he was a big name guest star, BBC presenter turned film actor, often as a leading man. He starred in the TV series Dial 999. I mean, he was around.
He was Canadian, wasn't he? Because I always thought he was American, but he's Canadian, isn't he?
Yeah,
I think Canadian, but I remember still seeing him in the 80s on shows. I'm sure. Where
he was in Blake 7. We talked about a few weeks ago. Remember? So he
was in episode 1 of Blake 7, wasn't he? Yeah, there he was. Dispatched very, very quickly, I must admit, but there he was.
Yeah, he was a high-profile actor in his day.
Yeah.
Is he in Superman 3 as well? That the Richard Pryor one. I think he's in that one.
Is he?
Yeah, he's an oil tanker captain, and he's they have to try and stop the oil tanker from coming through, and he's having none of it. He's driving through. Then Superman makes a hole in the bad Superman rather makes a big hole in the tanker, and all the oil spills out.
I've dismissed that film because it was rubbish. Okay.
But it's not as bad as Superman 4. That's another story. But
I've dismissed that one as well. But no, I'm glad he was in this one because he's such a good performer, and it's such a good. I mean, you can see why the guy goes insane, basically, and he plays it lovely. I would like to know what happened to him, not in a fan way. Had we had that proper resolution, we might have seen him getting locked up or taken away or whatever it was going to be. I don't know. Sean Cryer saying this was great drama, though, isn't it? Just
we're talking about shouting and stuff. Robert Beattie does shout a little bit, and he's quite commanding. But some lovely moments where you realise his son's gone up to save the other astronauts, and he's trying to talk to him as his dad / general, and it's a lovely touch. It's quite a moving performance at that point, I think.
Yeah, that's what we call acting, everybody. A proper character actor. So and just delivered the whole performance so well. And then, as you said, guys, the relationship between these two, the moments they have on screen, they do sparkle. Just two great actors delivering their craft beautifully, I think, here on screen.
I think probably what you said before, if Hartnell knew someone, a bit like Tom Baker, if you had a good actor to work with, it'd raise their game. I think that happens with Hartnell as well in this,
What we got? Len looks back at us with us saying, "Oh, Superman 3 is okay." It's got its own form of Superman in that, hasn't it? And Stephen Braddock saying to us, "Cutler is increasingly unlikable and unhinged as the story goes on, risking half the Earth and his son." Graham, I thought it was clever that the very first part of the Cybermen we see is the human hand before the camera pans up to reveal that face. It's a brilliant way to do that, isn't it? Absolutely brilliant.
The reveal of them, you see them as figures in the distance. First of all, them walking, you can't see enough of the detail to realize what they are, but you realize they're not properly humanoid. And then, as Graham says, you get the hand, and the camera tracks up to the close-up of the face. Is so well done,
bloody well done.
And that wonderful stylized titles as well over the top, that the typewriter that works really well, and it's quite atmospheric and eerie as well.
And the computer buzz that plays over them as well.
Yeah. It just helps to set the scene, doesn't it? Really quite nice for the title reveal. Legion of James. I think the understated exit for Hartnell works really well. Les gives his exit more for me. It carries uncertainty with a real heavy sadness and fear for what's happening, and it's perfect for the first regeneration.
Well, to be fair, if this was new series Who, he'd be holding back regeneration for 3 episodes, until he regenerates. So less is more sometimes.
I completely agree. I think you can swing too far the other way. I remember watching David Tennant's final episode, where was it 15-20 minutes? He was doing this victory lap, and I was just sitting there thinking, "Oh, get on with it."
I've said this before. I've said before, just hurry up and die. I can't stand all that stuff in the new series where they have to give them all these epic speeches because a minority of fans love it all. Just get on the floor and die, get the new guy in, and let's start criticizing him. That's what I say.
So I have to say, to this day, I still think that first regeneration, the crossover from Hartnell to Troughton, is the best realized one ever on screen.
That's interesting.
It's a fantastic sequence.
That's very interesting because there's a lot of no disrespect, but a lot of fans your age, George, that have said that for years and years and years. And I never saw it. So my favorite one will always be Baker Davison because it was handled with such care and beauty. But when I eventually saw the Hartnell to Troughton, I thought, oh, hang on a minute. There's a similarity here between the two.
Well,
the irony is the vision mixer was broken, I think, wasn't it? So that's why they got a really weird effect on it. And it works brilliantly. It really does. It's a happy accident again, isn't it?
Yeah. But from a technical point of view, I mean, the actual changeover shot itself, the fact that Hartnell and Troughton's features perfectly line up.
Yeah.
So they do, before your very eyes, they do seem to change. Yeah. Because they are a perfect match, which was just a phenomenally happy accident.
A very happy accident. Yeah.
But I mean,
never happen again.
As I said before, thanks to the off-air 8mm film, we've got the full sequence and the whole thing of the TARDIS operating itself, the idea that power is surging, something very, very strange is happening, the soundscape that's created for it, the rapid cutting, non-sequential cutting, of Hartnell appearing in very rapidly from different camera angles before the actual regeneration takes place, I think just works so wonderfully well. And I think the impact of that back in 1966 must have been phenomenal.
Oh gosh!
And the way Hartnell's moving, his physicality is really weird. Like he's kind of consumed with something. He's just kind of hypnotized by the TARDIS almost. It's amazing.
That shot of his hand on the consoles, the switches are moving by themselves, and his hand seems to be glowing.
Yeah.
Just the whole thing just carries such force and such impact, and I think it is the best realized version of the regenerational changeover that certainly I've ever seen.
Yeah, well, fair enough. I mean, you watch it, and I'd like to point out at this point as well to spread the word if you don't know it. It was all done by a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
all these. I mean, this is why
I can't think of her name. Shirley
Howard.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just all this stuff that came up over in recent years. I mean, you have to go back to the original premise, the original series, the 3 original years, and the first ever regeneration was produced, and the effect was done by a woman. And what all that nonsense we had to go through a few years ago. You know, I mean, these were supposed to be fans that were producing the show. They should have turned around and said, "Calm down. Let's have a look at who produced it originally. Let's have a look who worked on it. Let's have a look at who did the first regenerate." I mean, come on, and beautifully done. Absolutely beautiful. Happy accident, as we say, but again, as you mentioned there, the kids and the families that were watching Doctor Who that night must have been just gobsmacked with what was going on here. And
well, it's lovely if you look at Radio Times stuff when Troughton arrives, and you're saying about fans criticising the next Doctor. Even then, people were saying, "I don't like Troughton, bring back Hartnell," kind of thing. You know what I mean? So even then, fans did it. You know, which is interesting.
But then again, you know, people got into Patrick Troughton very quickly, didn't they?
Of course, yeah.
I think it helped as well that you'd had the 2 with Hartnell, and then the week after the Cybermen, you get the Daleks.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that was clearly done very deliberately.
Of course it was.
To make sure the audience came back for it. But I mean, the other thing about that first regeneration, you know, is the TARDIS itself is clearly involved in what's going on.
I love it. Yeah. I love that. That's something that we've lost as well, isn't it? But you know, when you see that scene and all this, as you say, Joe, all the switches are going like this, and the lighting and the TARDIS looks a little bit scary.
Yes, it suddenly becomes a very eerie place, and as I said, the soundscape that was created for it, that sort of very off-kilter dematerialization noise with everything playing out of phase.
Yeah,
and you know, you just hear Polly shout "Doctor" over the top of it, and that's the only bit of normal sound you have in the whole thing.
One of the best, one of the greatest cliffhangers, Daryl.
Yeah,
in Doctor Who history, that particular one, isn't it? I mean, it's just,
and the tension and suspense is fantastic. You're on the edge of your seat. So, as you said, George, imagine watching that for the very, very first time ever without any foreknowledge of regeneration, having watched it from.
Well, it wasn't even called that, was it? It was just
renewal.
He says the week after.
Yeah, it calls it renewal or rejuvenation.
Yeah.
But there's one thing that gets you, like with the other ones, like Logopolis, you really feel the emotion in it, and it's genuine, and the character's dying, and you feel sorry for them. You know, you're grieving them. I don't understand why the new series reckon it's not death. I don't understand that at all, but it so is.
It really is.
I clearly remember watching the last episode of Logopolis when it was first broadcast in 1981. And when it got to the last 5 minutes, my heart was in my mouth. It really was.
Me too. Yeah.
Really.
And I can imagine viewers would have been exactly the same watching The 10th Planet.
Yeah.
Well, the fact is as well, there was this big thing. People were aware because of the press. Hartnell was leaving. Troughton was coming in. Anika Wills has often said there was a real buzz from the public that they felt about Troughton coming in because people liked Troughton. They were aware of him. They knew. I mean, he was a star as well. Wasn't he?
I mean, he was a big TV face back then.
Yeah, and a good character actor, as we now know as well. So there was that excitement, that vibe, but also the nervousness, the worry. This had never been done on British television or television in the world. This was the first time this had been done. This was, you know, such an epic moment for the show, for the BBC, for British television, for television. Could the show survive? And by God, how did it survive? Absolutely superb. And I think it's because of that care. It goes out with the Cybermen, an introduction of a brand new monster. The care of it, the way it's written is beautiful. And then what happens the week after, of course.
But imagine if they got an actor to play it like Richard Hundle and do like a copy of Hartnell. I'm so glad they didn't do that, because that could have been what happened, you know?
Yeah.
Making a completely different character is such a good idea.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, that's why it worked. And you know, can you see Troughton doing a Hartnell? Not really now, but maybe that's because we know who Troughton came up.
But you know, sometimes when they did it later in the 80s, like in, I don't know,
Dallas or something. Recast in the soaps.
People would just turn up with a different face, not a mention of it at all, you know.
Yeah, and try and do
at least in the fiction of the series, it always gets mentioned, which is brilliant in itself.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's what made Doctor Who, from that night on, that's what made Doctor Who unique. You know, to this day, Mark A. Wright is saying no pre-warning of the regeneration renewal. It must have felt bonkers as a viewer, and surely for weeks after, some viewers must have been thinking the real Doctor would return. I've no doubt. When's Hartnell coming back? I'm sure some of the kids must have been saying. But I love that's why, you know, you get all this whole thing from Ben and Polly, don't you? He's not the real one. He's not the real for 4 weeks after.
Well, I mean, one thing this is going on to Power of the Daleks, I know, but one thing that's always puzzled me about that And I know the original idea was the changeover was supposed to take place off camera, which, you know, and Ben and Polly enter the TARDIS after the regeneration has taken place was the original idea, which to me makes sense of, you know, they don't think it's the Doctor that's in the TARDIS in the next episode. But the fact, you know, they were kneeling next to him as he physically changed before them, and they're turning around and going, who's this? Okay, do you want to remember 5 minutes ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I like this from Stephen. Yes, the original regeneration is outstanding even today. It's so good. And let's hope they don't do anything with that golden glow nonsense, which I'm convinced they're going to try and do with all the regeneration.
Well, they've already done a little bit on it, and Twice Upon a Time, the last Capaldi episode that had Bradley in it. So they've kind of done it already. But yeah.
Doesn't count. I'm not.
I would say just very quickly, one other really nice touch in episode 1 of Power of the Daleks, which again would be lovely to see, but we've got the telesnaps of it, is where Troughton's holding the mirror, and the image, the reflection is Hartnell, which then morphs into him.
That's such a lovely idea, isn't it?
Yeah.
Superb that he sees his former self. That's great.
Yeah. Sean Cryer saying this story exemplifies story over effects. I'll take that anytime. Thank you. Back in the day, though, of course, they didn't have any choice, whereas today they do, and it's the effects over story, as we know. You know,
I don't think the effects are too bad. I mean, the
effects are brilliant.
Yeah, when the cyber ship arrives, it looks like a giant cheeseburger, but it's nice that it lands.
I like the effects here, but the big thing is still the story, though, as Sean said. The big thing here is the story, and I love that. It's actually, I agree with it as well, Sean, because I had a family member that came in while I was watching this and visited me, and it was on, and she said to me, "It's amazing, isn't it? I can watch something like this from all those years ago, but I can't watch your new stuff, i.e. the stuff that's on today."
And you said it's not mine, so
because you can get into the story. Wherever you come into it, you know, and I love that. I absolutely love that. And Paul Richards has got a nice thing here. My great grandmother at the time said, after 10th Planet, who the hell's that clown? Patrick soon won the public over.
That's what the letters were like in Radio Times. That was kind of comments that we're making, you know.
Yeah, Graham's asking, because is this the first proper Base Under Siege story? I can't think of an earlier one.
I think
it's the start of it, really. Yeah.
Yes.
And it's kind of, the siege has grown up at this point. It's quite adult as well, don't you think?
Yes. Well, as I mentioned before, I think the third reason why this story breaks new ground.
Go on, yeah.
Yes, we've got the first Cybermen, the first regeneration, but in the same way that the invasion is credited as the template for 70s Doctor Who, if you think about it, the 10th Planet is really the template for the rest of the 1960s.
It's an excellent point, because as you've mentioned, this is the moon base effectively. Yeah. You know, it's just all shifted and things. The furniture's moved around slightly, but that is, it is the template for practically all of Triton's time, isn't it? Really, you know,
I think
Monster of the Week type thing. Wonderful.
People criticise the Base Under Siege idea and think it's a bit repetitive. It may be, but the stories are fabulous and full of atmosphere. You know.
I mean, the other thing that is largely forgotten is episodes were meant to be seen once, and that was it.
Yeah.
And, you know, and then long forgotten. You know, they weren't made for 50 plus years down the line for everybody picking the bones off them.
But by God, they stand up there, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Got a lot of you in the chat joining us. Thank you so much. I love the fact that the energy is draining towards Mondas and it hits the Doctor, says Paul Richards. John Steed. You can tell how much time, effort, and love went into the show. How times have changed. And also, probably under far more pressure in those days, quite frankly, because you know, especially when you have your leading man having to take a week and a bit off ill, you know,
and not up to full health for the final episode
when he comes back. But good, you know, God knows what would have happened if he hadn't been able to come through. They would have had to delay transmission or something, wouldn't they? They needed him for that last episode. Yes, it's far from being all over, says Mark Milford. Classic line, isn't it? Absolutely classic line. Mike Disney is saying to us, the ending made me want to see the next episode. Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah, it doesn't always. Maybe one day.
It is a shame, isn't it? It really is. And Paul Richards, what you're saying, real knowledge of science helped create the Cybermen, unlike the modern Who, where it's more fantasy. And I like Polly going on about Malaysia. She's very insistent.
That's a very unusual line.
Yeah,
well, that landmass, that looks like
Here's
Malaysia.
Listen, had people in Britain heard of Malaysia at that point, really? Was this a new country that we found or something? Were they pushing it?
Wouldn't you think Derek Martinez would have said, tell you what, Anakin, could we change that to Australia? Because that just sounds a lot better.
We're selling it there, love. It's doing very well, love. Mention it.
That's interesting. That point in the story where the Doctor gives Barclay a note of what they're going to see. I love all that. That's superb. It really builds the mystery of the whole thing.
That's what Moffat would call timey-wimey stuff, isn't it? But I do love that. Michael Q.
It's just clever writing more than
timey-wimey. The Doctor does know about this. He knows what's happening. You're about to get. I love all of that. Michael Q is saying the cyber ship looks like a UFO, and so it should. A 1960s classic UFO looking thing. I absolutely love it, and the way it just lands so gently in that shot.
Yeah.
How lovely of them to do that. You know, it's absolutely gorgeous the way it does that. You know, I love all that. So it takes me back to when I was a kid and everything was done on string.
Well, I love all TV and film pre-Star Wars where you have practical effects like that. And it's far more inventive and interesting, I think, you know?
Yeah. I think the effects stand up really well, especially the sets of Mondas exploding, says Stephen Braddock. In the animation, the exploding Mondas is fabulous.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
if it gets returned, it will be like
the realization of the South Pole looks very, very effective. You know, it works very well.
It's a great one, actually. Craig is saying to us, Craig Dunlop saying, as a 5-year-old, the Doctor's first regeneration really scared me, and I remember being wary of Troughton's Doctor for an episode or two. He went on to become my favorite Doctor, though. I love that story. I love listening to the people that were there as kids watching it.
I am so jealous, I have to say, because
but you know, I mean, not many of them are the people I knew are with us now, to be honest, because time moves on. But you know, back in the 80s and 90s, when you know, we'd say, "What was it like watching it?" Hartnell's just chant, "What was it like? What was it like?" And they would tell us saying it was really spooky and it was loud. I remember one guy telling me it was loud, and I imagined because of what was going on in the TARDIS. You know, but their memories, like Craig's there, I love that it frightened people because it's a frightening thing, isn't it? You know, really is.
Well, I was born between, I think, episodes 2 and 3 of Power of the Daleks, so I missed it, sadly. I was only a baby, so.
Innes Lloyd just did Base Under Siege because it was cheap SG. You don't have to think much about it, do you? But you know what? They became television classics, didn't they? Those Base Under Sieges of the Troughton era, and we love them.
Yeah,
you know. And sometimes I wish that there were more Base Under Siege stories in this day and age, if you know what I mean. Honestly, because they work so well. They really, really do.
Well, when did the Capaldi one, the one under the lake, that worked really well, and that was kind of a Base Under Siege story, wasn't it? You know?
It was Base Under Siege story. You know, Warriors of the Deep's not so much, but I still love that familiar Doctor Who element of this, and it's all down to 10th Planet. And Mark A. Wright is saying it's great to hear George's perspective as an original viewer.
Could I just point out that, Mark, I would have been a babe in arms when this was on TV. Now, there is a possibility, because I grew up with 2 older brothers, both of whom absolutely loved Doctor Who, so it was unmissable TV for as far back as I can remember. So there's a strong possibility that my two brothers were on the sofa absolutely glued to it as I was in the room. So I could have seen episode 4 of the 10th Planet, but if I did,
osmosis,
yes. But I'm afraid my memories of it, if I did, are 0.
Oh, and we've got Paul Stenford here with us saying the 10th Planet is full of tension, suspense, and adventure. It's totally unlike today, where everyone in the show is prancing around being silly and sending it up. Again, you know, as I found out today, somebody can just come into the room, sit down with a cup of tea, and get into it. And I loved that comment of, I can watch this, but I can't watch the new, because the story was involved. It brings you in. You suddenly you recognize what's happening here because it's science fiction classic. This is the base. Oh, look, there's a monster. Oh, it happens to be the Cybermen. Oh, there's the Doctor. There is his companions. Oh, these are the people they've got to work with. Oh, the planet Earth is Earth is in danger. Oh, and there's another one. Simple, and I love it.
Plausible and believable, you know, and played straight, which it should be, you know. But
but it's just proper Doctor Who as well, isn't it? You know,
definitely, yeah.
And I love it because of that. I just love the atmosphere as well of this whole thing. I mean, when was the first time that you guys got to watch this?
For me, it was probably, again, I've mentioned many times about bootleg copies of episodes in the 80s before I'd ever got onto the Cyber Years tape. So it must have been 83, 84 I got to see it. And very poor quality. But when you were a fan and you watched a very poor quality episode, you'd be glued to it, trying to make out what was going on, but it's still worth seeing, you know. But
I mean, I was always a copyright abiding citizen, so I didn't do videos. So the first time I actually saw the episodes was when the VHS was released. Where was that? About 1999, 2000, somewhere around there. So relatively late. I just remember thinking how much impact and how good it was, and the fact that it was remembered as the first Cyberman story and William Hartnell's last story, but the fact that it's a cracking bit of tension-filled drama in its own right tends to get overlooked. And like everybody else, it's a crying shame that episode 4 isn't there to complete it.
Yes, so if you're watching this and you have it, please return it to Whose Views at...
As long as you're not Roger K. Barrett, okay? That's all I'm saying.
I have to say, I, as I said before, I read the Target novelization numerous times before. Back in the day, it was a well-read one. It was a real page turner. I enjoyed it immensely. And it's another one that the audiobook, which Annika Wills narrates, is very, very good. She does a really good job of narrating it. Reason,
if anybody is seeing Peter Purvis during the year as well, just ask him, because he was actually on Blue Peter at the time this thing went missing. Just saying.
He probably took it home and went, "Oh, that's not one of mine."
Ben's come on Tuesday, yeah.
I'll keep this Dalek Master Plan one, though.
The thing I like with this story, says Mudcrap, is the base actually feels like it has a full working crew. A lot of base stories have a cast of 5 people running around a massive base. Very, very true. I love the fact that this set is actually quite small because of that. So it looks continually busy. It's brilliant set.
And also the geography of the design works as well. You don't think, well, how did they get from there to there? It all makes sense. The one thing that I think is a bit of a stretch is, why is there a periscope in a crew room?
Yes, I was going to say that, and a very adult crew room as well. They have dirty pin-ups on the wall and stuff like that.
Yes, that's true. Yeah. That's of the time, isn't it, really?
Yes, And the Italian soldiers, my God, he's gorgeous. What's that?
I mean, even details like people smoking when they're off duty and that sort of thing.
But you know what, though? The story is set in 1986. And you know what? 1986 wasn't that far removed in our experience, having lived through it, to 1966, was it?
Not really.
I mean, we still had the page 3 stunner. We're in 96. They were still smoking in everywhere they possibly could in 1986. So it wasn't that. It's not. It's plausible, isn't it? Really. And isn't it? How many Doctor Who fans? How many Who viewers out there? Every time they announced, I think we've had 2 announcements from NASA over the last 10, 20 years of that 10th planet nearing the solar system. Is it? I can't remember what it's called now, but there's 2 of them, isn't there? Apparently that they found. How many of us always go, we know who's on it. Don't come anywhere near it. It's very odd, isn't it? But again, a great bit of science fiction that is sort of on the bar, because there is another one out there and it's on the way to us, isn't it? They see it traveling towards us. It's going to knock us for 6.
Well, I mean, it was always thought there would be more planets. They're just so far out. We hadn't developed the technology to detect them as yet.
Yeah, that's very true. Scary stuff. What have we got here as well from SG? I love it when Polly is trying to preach to Krang about being human, because they're people and they're going to die. Isn't she good? She is so good in this, isn't she? Because that's the Doctor's lines here. I think this is what the Doctor should be doing. But here's Polly going for it. She's like, "What? What are you talking about?" I absolutely love it.
they're going to die, and some of them are in Malaysia.
Yes. Who's like a cup of coffee? I could do that, couldn't I? Yes.
Yeah, well, the coffee bit. Yeah, the coffee bit. But I mean, the fact is, she does have those wonderful lines there where she's not frightened of these things. Okay, she screams at them at first, but when she hears them, when she listens to them, when she sees what they're doing, she's not having any of it. I think she's brilliant in this.
She is. Yeah.
Really is. And it must have been. I don't want to sound horrible, everybody, but it must have been a sort of gift that Hartnell had to go off ill for Anika and I've got his name. Michael. It must have been. Do you not think? Because they got some really beefy.
They got more to do. Yeah.
Well, Peter Purvis and Jackie Lane said the same thing about the Celestial Toy Maker, where they carried the 2 episodes.
Yeah.
That it was their chance to step out of his shadow.
I think sometimes though, when Hartnell's not there, you do miss him, don't you? Although it's a good episode, but you miss him not being there.
Do you know? I think it works in this story though for me because he's been complaining a little while. The Doctor, not Hartnell. The Doctor's complaining a little bit. He's not comfortable. Something's going on. I think it adds to the mystery of this character who we didn't know at the time. Let's remember, he was just a traveller. We didn't know anything about this at the time. So I think it adds this whole concern about him for the audience at the time because he's gone for a whole episode. What's happening? And I love the way they actually have the ability to tie that in with the story to say the body's wearing a bit thin.
Yeah.
I think it's very, very clever how they've handled it. And they tie it in with the whole thing, right? We're doing this renewal process thing anyway. And the Mondas effect.
Yeah. I've got a silly fan theory about this. When he was on Kemble, he was affected by the time destructor. Then later on, the Savages, his body was drained and stuff. I wonder if they had knock-on effects to what happened on the 10th planet.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah,
and it's on the postcard, everybody. Yeah. I mean, in this day and age, that's what they would probably do, isn't it? They would probably make it into a 3-bit arc saying what that happened to him there, and this is tying into it a prolonged death.
So,
and they just thought, how can we write Hartnell out?
No, but I think you're onto something. As fans, we can look at the fact that he does say the body's wearing too thin.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember reading, I think it was Uncle Terry in one of the Target books back in the day was saying that because the Time Lords lead that very grand, very exclusive, life that for millennia, where they're not wear and tear. And here's the Doctor running around, jumping around, wear and tear, getting battered, bruised, hit on the head, threatened on a daily basis. No wonder that body's run out. And I remember some along the lines of Terence writing that, and also the fact he's kept it for too long because he likes the body. And these things stay with you as kids and when you grow up. And I love all that stuff, though, Paul. I think it's great to add to that character.
Well, I mean, he started off being 750 years old, didn't he? So he was quite an old age when he started, But
yeah,
I do think it's a shame, circumstances forced William Hartnell out of episode 3 that we lost the opportunity to see him go toe to toe with the Cyberman.
Yeah,
and have a nice big standoff with one.
Yeah,
that would have been nice to see. But again, going back to the Target book, Jerry Davis actually threads the idea that his body's wearing out through the whole story. Practically from the first TARDIS scene in the book, it gets threaded through that the Doctor, his body's wearing out and he's dying, and it's he's obviously done it retrospectively, but it's far more evident in the novelization than it is in the TV series.
For those people that weren't around, I mean, these things, because obviously we read these before we saw them a lot of the time.
That's original DVD. That was
These were proper. As you're saying there, though, these were proper novels. But they expanded before Virgin got hold of them and did what they did in the late 80s, early 90s. These were actually expanding them all. Eastland, sorry, Eastland, your comment's been there for a little while. Nice to see you. Eastland is saying to us, was standard practice to control a budget and do a Stuck Here episode or Base Under Siege? It was, and we got some classics out of it, so we're not moaning about it at all. Mudcrab saying to us, the bit in episode 2 when the Cybermen bend the submachine gun in half. Has anyone seen Robocop in that scene? Both Doctor Who and Robocop are using the same gun, a Sterling SMG, so I wonder if it was deliberate. Probably. It's probably the same stock item.
It's a nice way of showing their power, isn't it, and showing how strong they are, because because when they arrive, I think the crew aren't sure what to make of them at first, are they? And then they prove that they're not to be messed with, which is really good,
Yeah. I think the Cybermen in this story, they're far more of the Silver Giants, or they're far more convincing as the Silver Giants than they are in any other Cyberman story. You get a real sense of their physical size and their physical power, which I don't think is conveyed as well in any other Cyberman story.
And there's not a short Cyberman amongst them either, is there?
Yeah. I wish they had kept them at that sort of tall height. I really do, because the Silver Giant, I mean, it's even in here, isn't it? From there on in, the Silver Giants, the Silver Giants, the Silver Giants. And that's the reputation that they have, or did have, really.
And that's what worked in the Troughton era as well, with Jamie, Victoria, and Troughton, that they were so little, and all the monsters were huge. The Yeti, the Ice Warriors gave so much more threat and excitement, didn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I remember my dad telling me about the Cybermen from 10th Planet when we watched Earthshock, says John Steed. It's a shame I wasn't born till Hartnell had left and Troughton had taken over. Yeah, but then you grew up with the end of Troughton and Pertwee. Come on, there's a good side to this. There really is, John. I'm determined. Absolutely, you're gonna have the good days. But no, I get what you're saying. What else we got here for you as well? Nice to see you all. Daleks Are Forever is witching as well. Daleks Forever saying to us, I'm watching the reruns of the Doom Watch, and it's a brilliantly engaging sci-fi series, but these early Doctor Who's are on another level. Absolutely.
Yeah, I've been watching them as well. And talking about smoking, I was watching one episode, Re-Entry Forbidden, I think it's called, with the dual capsule used for Ambassadors of Death, and everyone is smoking, and even the astronauts almost just about,
So I did then.
Yeah, I think it was pretty groundbreaking in the 60s and 70s to show a character not smoking.
Yeah.
God, you watch it now and oh God. Oh, we've got Mark Milford saying to me, Planet X and Nibiru. Were they really? Thank you. Michael Q also saying it's Planet X, JT. Well, that's got to change because Elon Musk will try and copyright this.
Well, that's what his son's called, isn't it? X.
Yeah, bless him. Yeah. If a 10th planet is conclusively found, it should be called Mondas. Well, they'd have to pay a royalty. It has to be a pretty big one as well. What have we got here? Lex, hello, Lex. Nice to see you. I like the line, this old body is wearing a bit thin, and saying, don't worry, my child. Yeah. It's wonderful, again, how Hartnell plays this, isn't it? Having faced off the Cybermen, having done all this, having come to the realization he's got to do something about it. I must get back to the ship. I've got to get back to the TARDIS. It shows that bond that is no longer there anymore. It's such a shame. It was there for 20 years, I reckon, really. Especially in the first 4 Doctors, the bond between the Doctor and his ship. And here's Hartnell understanding that completely as he's about to hand over the whole thing. Oh, bless. You can feel his heartbreak, really. But in the performance, it's there. It's absolutely there. I must get back to the ship. Bless. I love it. But yeah, thanks for that, Lex. And David is saying, I'm now watching episode 4. I like the animation, but I felt the Moonbase showed what animation could be done right. Always felt Ben was an underrated geezer.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. He had a lot more potential. He had, like I said, if Fraser Hines had come along a little bit later, he had more of a chance to shine, I think,
Yeah. Yeah, thanks very much. What else we got here? Let's get through all these because we've got a lot of people joining us in the chat tonight. Lex, thank you very much for your super chat. It'll be amazing seeing where everyone's saying how he regenerates, the mystery of how the Doctor regenerates, the modern Who flame regeneration spoils how the Doctor. Well, you know my feeling, Lex, on the modern stuff.
Well, I think they've trivialized regeneration now, which is such a shame. But yeah.
But here, when you go back to this, and this is the reason I would say to anybody, go and watch the 10th Planet, because I love it when it's tacked onto it. Yeah. Where the regeneration is tacked onto it, like they do in 10th Planet. It just happens to be building up beautifully, especially in part 4. They've had to because of circumstances. It's all happy accidents. It's all coincidence. It's all beautiful.
Yeah.
And then you get this massive shock, which the shock value was never going to be there ever again in that healthy sense, because we got used to it. The British public reacted to this. Yes, that's fine. It happened again and again and again. It's now part of what Doctor Who does, isn't it? I mean, it's a recognized feature. It always gets people talking about it, And here it is in the first one, just being brilliant. Thanks, Lex. I had a comment there from Jason as well. The chilling sound of the TARDIS in episode 4 is chilling, creating a real sense of something is not quite right for the viewer. It was brilliant work by the Radiophonic Workshop. We have to talk about Brian Hodgson and the Radiophonic Workshop as part of this episode. What stunning sounds for this.
Did he help with the voices of the Cybermen as well?
Yes, I think they do.
Yes, I think he modulated them.
Yeah.
But it was his name's just gone right out of my head. The voice artist, Roy Skelton. It was his idea to do the sing song.
Yes, it was. Yeah. And he was very proud of it as well. I was lucky enough to have met Roy in days when I lived in Brighton, because he lived up the road, and he would come in and we would just have hours of fun doing Zippy from Rainbow impressions between the two of us. And we would start doing, Zippy as the Daleks and the Daleks as Zippy and all this sort of stuff. He was lovely. He was so proud of his cyber voices and never quite understood why. What he told me was he never quite understood why it wasn't continued a little bit longer. But they just did what they were told to do, weren't they? Really, it got a little bit more electronic-y.
He did do them with Peter Hawkins and the Moonbase, didn't he, as well?
Yes.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, but he wasn't quite sure why they wanted the sort of robot thing when he knew that the Cybermen were human.
Well, or maybe Maurice Barry, who directed the Moonbase, thought the redesign of the Cyberman costumes, the original voice wouldn't be simpatico to that.
Maybe. I'd like to say hiya to Ant Dow. Is that saying Ant Dow? Ant Dow? Nice to see you, because he's a second-time viewer. Welcome to Who's Views. Please subscribe if you haven't already. It's lovely to see you. He says he's loving the show. I'm 45 and I don't class myself as a Whovian. Neither do I. I'm a Doctor Who fan. But I loved the show since the mid-1980s. I can't name any other show that housed my first fears, quizzicalness, and crushes. Well, in the 80s, there was plenty of all of that for you, wasn't there, really? But yes, welcome. Have you seen The 10th Planet from 1966? If you haven't, I suggest you do, because we're here talking about it, and it's brilliant. It's just absolutely brilliant. Proper British drama as well, isn't it? Just absolutely fantastic quality. What the BBC used to do, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Stephen Braddock saying to us here, sorry, this one. I never saw the early Cyberman stories, but I saw Wheel and the Invasion. Strange you mentioned the Invasion there, Stephen, because next week we're going to be looking at the Invasion as part of our celebrations of the Cybermen. If you weren't with us at the top of the shows, this is what we're doing. We're celebrating the Cybermen, because in next year, 2026, the Cybermen are 60. And we thought we'd get in there a little bit earlier. So we're doing a whole year of celebrations building up to their 60th.
They're not the only one, I have to say. So.
As ever, yes, we love that, John. Thank you very much. William Hartnell's the first and the original Doctor. Of course he is, and it's never going to change, is it, everybody? What else we got? So there's a lot. Ark in Space, nice to see you, mate. I remember being so excited getting this on DVD as a wee 20-year-old. I've been wanting to watch this for a long time. Oh, well, see, I love that, isn't it? The youngsters are finding it, guys. And I think I hope they're getting something from it, because it's such an important story. Oh, that killed that conversation.
What's interesting in it as well, they've got an international cast as well. They're going down that Star Trek route of international crew members, which works really well, And they do the same in the Moonbase as well, which is good.
Lots of you are quoting bits from the show here as well. Mark saying to us, hiya, Mark. The real-life Antarctic Treaty in 1959 bans military bases, which could explain why Snowcap was later abandoned. Kit Pedler was a master. Well, he knew his science, let's face it, Absolutely, because that was his trade, wasn't it? I mean, yeah, genius, really. The creation of this. Doctor Who's second biggest baddie. Is that fair, though, Who viewers? Is that fair, Paul and George? Doctor Who's second biggest baddie?
I would say that they're definitely as big as the Daleks, definitely. But I prefer the Cybermen to the Daleks, but I still love the Daleks. But that's just me. But,
I mean, in terms of general popularity, endurance,
recognition,
the sort of revenue they brought in and all that sort of stuff, then the Daleks have to be number one. There's no question. But I don't think that throws any shame on the Cybermen or any of the other really memorable creatures, monsters, villains that the series produced over the years. I don't think that means the Daleks steal a march on anything else. It's just how it is.
I think it also helps as well, doesn't it, that the fact is, this is, as we're saying, as we all know, their first appearance. They then go on to be that popular. They come back to haunt Troughton for
they were the mainstay of Troughton's time.
era. Yeah.
Yes.
And then they're not on for years. And when they do come back for Baker's first one, everybody recognizes them. Everybody knows them. It's the Cybermen. I mean, that shows just how big these creatures are, aren't they? These monsters. They're just brilliant.
Yeah. I mean, they were very regularly featured in the TV comic strip. They appeared on one of the Doctor Who annual covers.
They did.
And as we said before, when Tom had his official press launch and the world got to know that he was cast as the new Doctor, he was with the Cyberman, even though, as you said, by that time they'd not appeared in the program for 5 or 6 years.
Shows the power of the Cybermen. Copyright Whose Views. That's the story, that one. Lex, thank you so much for your super chat. Ben, wakey, wakey, Doctor, it's now all over. I think that's delivered quite cheekily, actually, as well. I think it's a bit patronizing when he delivers
Speak up, I'm not deaf again, kind of moment.
Yeah, and the Doctor, what did you say, my boy? No, it's far from being all over. Again, it adds that wonderful bit of mystery as to, for the viewers, they must have been like, why? What's going to happen now? You know, I just love the vision of young boys and girls on Saturday evening in October. The nights are drawing in, the fog's drawing in, the cold is drawing in, as it would have done back then in '66. You know, watching this thing on their small little tellies like this, on the edge of their seats, not knowing where this thing's going now. I think that's magical.
I was going to say, if this was early on in Hartnell's run, like season 1, he would have taken off and left them, probably, you know, for their own devices. You know.
Yeah. At this point, though, he nearly does, actually. At this point, he's losing his mind a little bit here, isn't he? The Doctor. He does lock them out of the TARDIS at one point. They have to, like, don't leave us here. Not here of all places or something, Ben says, doesn't he? It's as though they're expecting him at some point to go, yeah, I'm going to get rid of you. And newsflash, he does. Thank you for that, Lex. Nice to see you. Julie Wendy's with us. Hello, Julie. It's so nice to look back at these stories. It just makes you realize how bad it is now. Yeah. Well,
it makes you appreciate what you've got. Definitely.
It makes it look how good Doctor Who was. Let's say there, you know, especially in its first 17 years, 18 years, perhaps. Well, I still like it after that, but certainly the first 4 are classics, aren't they? You know. They are classics, just classic British telly. Nothing against what comes after, but it's certainly slightly different. Thank you for that, Julie. And Julianne, this is Doctor Who, and everybody knows that what their job is, how to do it, and to the best of their ability.
Back in the days when BBC ITV produced stuff like this on, factory production line principle.
Yes.
I think actually helped it make it as good as it was. The fact that you didn't have time to turn around and go, oh, just a minute. Oh, what if we did this? Oh, what if we chucked a bit more money at that? It's like, no, we've got to get this done. And we've got to get that set down by 4 a.m. because Z-Cars is coming in and their set needs to be up by 10 a.m.
Happy days.
It's amazing as good as they are. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And everyone was in the pub by 10:10.
Yes.
Absolute happy days. Not to mention some lunchtimes. Happy days. What we got here from everybody as well. Oh, thank you so much for all your chats. Keep them coming. John Roberts. I think I need to rewatch all the cyber stories one after the other. I'll sort out my DVDs after the show. Please do, because yes, we've got a lot to talk about in the cyber chat as we get ready to celebrate the big 6-0 for them next year. John is also saying to us, I prefer the Cybermen to the Daleks, but both are great. And Legion of James, what are you saying to us? Always fascinated me how Hartnell cemented the Daleks, Troughton cemented the Cybermen, and Pertwee cemented the Master as the 3 main villains. That's television done properly. Interesting that. I'd never really thought of that. And Mudcrab, question, was this the only time we got that style of credits?
It was the only time you sort of got like those computer graphics going across the screen, but it wasn't the first time that the title sequence was amended for that particular story. I mean, first one I can think of is the War Machines.
War
Yeah.
Machines,
Yeah, where that changed. Didn't the Smugglers have a unique title sequence? Wasn't that played over a map or something? The Highlanders was over some tartan, wasn't it? I
Yeah.
seem to
I
remember.
wouldn't know. I've never seen it.
No, nor
And
have
the
I.
Ice Warriors had a lovely shot of all the snow and stuff, didn't you? That bizarre kind of eerie singing.
the Ice
that went
Warriors,
on.
yeah.
The War Games had the
Yes.
Yeah.
The Web of Fear, the end titles, you had the pulsating web.
and they kept it going into season 7 with Pertwee.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
so
particularly Ambassadors of Death.
at some point in Pertwee's era, I think it's actually from series 8, isn't it? It becomes more uniformed, and and then that carries on for the rest of history. Really, we get the title sequence, and that's it. But it just shows you how television moves on again. I've said this often before, Who viewers. If you want to see British television history develop, you have to watch Doctor Who from 63 to 89 because it's all in there. Because Doctor Who was the testing bed for practically everything the BBC was going to put into their training manual. You know, everything is in there, from CSO to visual effects to vision effects to directing. It's all there. It's a cataloguing of British television and its evolving process. It's wonderful.
Because I think the only time after season 7 there was a variant that I can think of is episode 1 of The Ark in Space, where the Tom Baker titles had that very strange blue tint to them.
Yes. Because they could change it, and they did, and then they thought, no, we won't do any more. Yeah. Good stuff. Carwin, I think people get it wrong. I find the classic Cybermen are far more advanced than the modern. I mean, they have a flexible metal suit. That's surely more advanced now than rigid armor. Yeah, well, that's the whole debate that we had last week on Cyber Chat, isn't it? Between the proper Cybermen in 63 to 89 to the reboot version where they've just become robots and they're far robotic and they're staid and they've got that stomp. Do you hear the 10th Planet Cybermen stomping around? No, you don't. And that's more threatening.
Well, imagine if they had been stomping into the base and they'd hear them as soon as they were coming up the stairs, wouldn't they? It's incredible. Yeah.
I mean, as well as adopting catalogue poses, the 10th Planet Cybermen, you know, they also run. They get shots of them running across the Arctic.
Yeah.
You know, the
and then the ear comes off, which is interesting.
Yes.
And that's what inspired things like a TV comic for years, to have Cybermen running across fields and planets and all this.
And on skis.
On skis.
Yes.
With the big light bulb on the head.
Yes.
Absolutely fabulous. Happy days here in the UK when we were
That's for skiing at night, you know, with the light on.
Yeah. I would have loved to seen that on telly. The 10th Planet Cybermen zooshing down after the Doctor on the Alps.
like a scene from a Bond movie, yes.
The cyber controller with a
You can just see Krang going, knees to the right, sticks to the
left. It's all very good, isn't it? You know, it's all good fun, but it's brilliant. And again, it's a shame how it's been lost now. It's as though the message of the horror of the Cybermen has been lost because of that. And I still say, we've said this before on the show, or I've said this on the show before. I love the fact that this lot are so much more
organic,
and the eyes are there. I mean, it's horrific. I mean, this was sort of repeated back in the 80s, wasn't it, with the jaw, which was quite horrific. But it's the eyes and the fact that the eyes look so deadpan in these things, as though they're dead.
Really sad, don't they? They're really sad looking.
Yeah, and I love all that. And I hope to God at some point, when all the madness is done, the Cybermen can be rewritten as the horror and the sadness that they actually are, because it's us. Imagine, here's a science fiction point for you, Who's Viewers, and I've thought about this before as the sad Doctor Who fan I am. Imagine if Earth turned out to be Mondas.
Well, we'll find it soon enough.
Well, let's share, shall we? And all these people in Hollywood and LA.
Let's ask Mr. Musk, allegedly.
But do you know what I'm saying? Wouldn't that be interesting if I mean, there's a Doctor Who story. Quick copyright Who's Views. If Earth becomes Mondas, there's an alternative parallel universe for you. Have a think of that after the show, everybody. Wouldn't that be good?
So it's like Planet of the Apes. It was Mondas all along. That was it. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it could happen, couldn't it? Yes, says Sean Cry. I much prefer the stealth Cybermen. They're far more sinister.
Mhm.
As this story proves, the fact that at one point in episode 3, I think it is. No, it's episode 4, isn't it? Where they say, "How long will it be? How long do you think it'll be before they get here?" Ah, there they are. There they just creep up behind. Hello, here you are. Amazing.
There's a lot interesting speech one of them has. I think when they're trying to get contact the astronauts, and they say to him it's inevitable, and the one says, "I don't mind if you have a look. If you want to have a try, you can try if you want to. That's fine." It's kind of bizarre dialogue, don't you think?
Yeah. Timescales. Hello, nice to see you. The most horrifying thing I recall hearing Cybermen say was pain, pain, pain. I don't recall which episode that was. Excellent horror. That's in the Troughton era.
No, that's the Peter Capaldi one, isn't it?
The Capaldi one, yeah. World Enough in Time, yeah.
I thought there was something in the. I'm obviously getting everything mixed up again, as I can do. Carmen is saying to us here, imagine the horror that is under that suit. Mm-hmm. I do often, to be quite honest, when I look at these. And I'm so glad that they had a resurgence. And I don't really like mentioning them, but I think Bog Fanish's Spare Parts was absolutely fantastic, even on audio, for bringing that horror back. And it's such a shame that it wasn't maintained when it transferred over to television, I don't think. Possibly because they thought it was too much.
They did another one called The Harvest, which is McCoy's stories, but the Cybermen trying to become human again. And that works really well. Very good, yeah.
What we got here from Robin, I think the BBC will work round episode 4, maybe reshoot part with the Mondasian Cybermen and colorise and edit 10th Planet due to its importance in the canon. Well, I hope not. I don't want them going anywhere near it, thank you.
Yes. Fingers crossed they don't.
Yeah,
it's too important, Robin, and it's such an important part, not just for Doctor Who, but also for British television history. They shouldn't be going anywhere near these bits of classic telly and just trying to appease their fan minds at all. Leave it be. We've got the animated version for 4. If it ever gets, I at some point actually think it's going to come back at some point, part 4, because I absolutely genuinely believe there's a collector that has it.
I mean, I think if episode 4 ever does become available again, and I'd love to think that it is out there somewhere.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Ever the optimist. I think BBC have done it the best service they can possibly do it already with the animation of episode 4. Anything else would just really be spoiling it. And as I said before, I think that animation really slots in very well with existing 3 episodes. It's very respectful to what it should look like, and it's a very good recreation, and they don't need to do any more than that.
Well, sadly, if they do find episode 4, the BBC will release it edited to a 45-minute version based on the war games that they did last time, probably.
True.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just hope they don't go anywhere near it.
Surely, if episode 4 is found, that is one that's instantly crying out to be a collector's edition Blu-ray standalone.
It would have to be.
I'd be first in the queue, George. Definitely.
Yeah. It would have to be a huge, beautiful version, wouldn't it? They could repackage this. They could remarket it. They could put it out there. The complete 10th Planet.
Yes, for the first time since 1966.
Yeah, a lot of love and care would have to go into it as well, because it's such an important piece of, as I say, Doctor Who and British television history. As we mentioned on headlines on Sunday just gone there, the BBC are actually repackaging and remarketing the 10th Planet again, because if you're on our Facebook page and possibly other Facebook pages now, you would have seen that last week. The BBC announced that the 10th Planet, and again, can I just say a huge big shout out to BBC Studios? Thank you for taking part in our Cyber Chat series here on Who's Views and bringing this out to tie in with our series. It's very good of you. Thanks for watching and thanks for doing it. But look at this. I think this is stunning. Coming to vinyl for Record Store Day here in the UK in April is the 10th Planet, the original BBC TV soundtrack. A lot of you may already have this on CD, but with that beautiful cover, it's blooming well worth hunting down and getting it again. Isn't that gorgeous?
It's lovely, yeah.
I assume that's the soundtrack that was issued where Annika Wills did the links.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm assuming so as well. All I know about this is it's going to be available for Record Store Day 2025. You can actually start to pre-order it for any of the record stores across the United Kingdom that are taking part in this now. There are 2,500 being pressed, and this is what you get inside. You get a silver and a clear vinyl, and there you go. And it has to be the Annika Wills one. It really does, but it's beautiful. It's absolutely stunning. I can't wait to try and hunt this down and get this. As soon as I can pre-order it, I'm going to pre-order it. But there you go. The 10th Planet, 59 years later, hitting vinyl. Who'd have thought that? Yeah, and it's not a bad soundtrack either, actually. If you've got the CD version, it's a good listen, isn't it? It was
yeah.
Fantastic.
And said before, can also recommend the audiobook narrated by Annika Wills as well. That's a really good listen too.
Yeah. And I think you can still get it as well. The still shops have got it. It's got that cover. That, of course, is the original paperback version. But it's got that cover with the current logo based on that one. So you can still get that. But yeah, I mean, just look at that. That's definitely going in a frame when I get it, I tell you. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And I love the fact they've kept it black and white as well.
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. That's this year's record store day. Keep an eye out. John Steed is saying, "Oh, I love vinyl. Vinyl, huge, huge, huge again now." There you go. What we got here from Lex Kane, black and white artwork looks amazing on that. It's a fantastic cover as well, says Lex. It really is. And Steve Braddock saying to us just 2 days ago, NASA said there is a large object just past Neptune. Start worrying. I'd rather not. And if it's if it's going to finish us all off, hurry up. Before the clowns scream the next. Anyway, I'm just kidding. No, I love it. What else we got here? What's this from John? Oh no, more tap. That's no use to anyone. Who plays this material on vinyl anymore? Me. Vinyl is huge. Again, now I've got loads of them down there for the Doctor Who vinyls. They're gorgeous. Not all of them, because they were bringing them out quite regularly, on the vinyls. So guys, it was a really difficult decision. I just thought, oh no, if I start collecting them, I know where they're going with them. All the ones I've got on CD, they're going to be re-released. They started doing some other stuff as well, The Amazing World of Doctor Who and stuff, which I did get. But this one I've got to have. I've got to have that, even if it's just for the cover. The vinyl looks astonishing, says Paul Stanford. This will definitely become a much sought after collector's item. Well, I hope not. Well, not until I've got mine anyway. Can you pre-order for Record Store Day, says Bill Larry? You can if you go to your participating local record stores, ask them if they're participating in Record Store Day for this year. Now, I didn't know until a couple of years ago, they actually have to pay for the privilege of being part of Record Store Day. And then they get the stock intake and they can order it all. It's a busy, busy day for them all. Our local record stores have queues going down miles, guys.
Yeah, I've seen it.
If you're in the cities, you might get more choice. But go and ask them now if they're taking part in the Record Store Day, and then say, can I pre-order something? And I'm sure they'll be very helpful to. The Doctor Who ones, to be quite honest, they only take one, maybe two, some of the smaller ones, as I found out after queuing for an hour at one particular store to find out it had gone about an hour earlier. Couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
But there you go. You can, Bill. And I hope that's helped you there. Toonami, hello. Nice to see you, mate. Shame that part 4 is missing. Would have loved to see the story in full.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah.
You never know. And Ark in Space is saying my partner is going to hate me when I play that on my vinyl player. I know, if it's not bad enough it's on the television all the time, suddenly it's coming out of the speakers as well. How lovely is that? Sean Cry is saying to us, I'll never get tired of this stuff. Pretend and current Who is disposable, but real quality like this never will be. I've argued that, guys, before, haven't I? The fact that proper Doctor Who, the original 26 years of Doctor Who, is going to last forever, because it's just timeless. As we're pointing out now, 59 years at the moment for 10th Planet, and it's so engaging. It's still up there, isn't it? It's fantastic.
It's hugely entertaining. That's the best part of it,
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not tied down into any. Okay, it's set in 1986, but who cares once that throwaway lines around?
Well,
It's not showing you things that are on the telly. It's not having soap stars of the day in the show, is it? It's still timeless. I
love the way in as well when Ben says they've probably sent someone to the moon, and the guy said, a crew just returned last week or whatever. So they don't really say exactly when they went to the moon, but they're still going, which is a lovely touch.
Yeah. John Mason says, I'm a vinyl collector, but soundtracks and TARDIS Travels are saying having Doctor Who episodes on vinyl is pointless. Well, why? we got through years of it with just cassettes and CDs because we didn't have the blooming videos coming out for ages.
Oh, well, it was Pescatons and Genesis of the Daleks.
And Bill Larry has come back to me saying, there are lists of which stores are participating on the internet. Yes, get that. But if you do have a local record store, please go in and ask them anyway, just in case they're not on the list, because they can buy into it at any time, even a couple of weeks beforehand. So go and ask them, and do shop local. Please support your local record stores where you can, if they are participating. Hi to Paul Rose, who's joined us as well. Nice to see you. Legion of James saying no colorizing of the 10th planet, it would lose all the atmosphere. Now I have to say I totally agree with that as well, because that's what makes this element of Doctor Who special, especially when it comes to the Cybermen. It's because the Cybermen seem to suit black and white.
Yeah, it's interesting. In the Capaldi episode, Twice Upon a Time, his last one, they redo little sections of 10th Planet with David Bradley and 2 other actors playing Ben and Polly. And it just looks really odd in colour. It really does. Yeah.
Yes. Who bore no resemblance to Michael Craig whatsoever.
Yeah. And they don't even copy the performance as well. When he does that wakey bit, it's nothing like Michael Craig, you know?
Why have they done that?
Well, because the first Doctor's in it, and they start off showing. Actually, I think some of those bits are on the extras, but there are little bits at the very start of the story where Hartnell does that speech about emotions, and then morphs into David Bradley. That's from black and white to colour, and that's how the story starts.
Well, that's rubbish.
Well, it's right. They meet up together at the South Pole because they're both trying to regenerate. So that's the thing.
Oh, you see, that's just fan nonsense, isn't it?
It's fan nonsense. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad I haven't watched that. That's absolute rubbish. That's terrible. Why? No.
I have to say, I hated it on first watch, but I'm really quite fond of it now. But yeah.
Well, I'm not going to ever watch that one.
Yeah.
No, I don't like the sound of that at all. Why? But mind you, I suppose it's a wonderful way of ending your association with the show, where the 12th meets the 1st. You can finish it there, can't you? You can just everything else can come off the show. I think I have it in the complete. Is it in the complete series 10?
No, it didn't come out. It came out in a single volume. You couldn't get it. It wasn't on the box set at all. So,
well, I haven't got it then, and never will. But how weird is that? Anyway, never mind. Paul Stanford is saying, I have faith that the 10th Planet episode 4 is somewhere out there. But if it isn't, I still enjoy and appreciate what we do have. Yeah. And that's the right attitude to take.
Yes,
because,
I completely agree. Yeah, it's a crying shame there are missing episodes, and I'd be delighted if any and every missing episode turns up. Any one of them, I would be absolutely delighted to see surface. But let's enjoy what we've got. We've got more than we haven't got.
Having the soundtracks is a minor miracle in itself, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that no episode of Doctor Who is completely missing is, given how disposable television was right up until the late 1970s. The fact that there is something from every single episode is phenomenal, and there's no other TV series from the 1960s that has that.
No, it's true, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's true, absolutely true. We're very lucky, honestly.
Very lucky,
aren't we? Because as you say, George, we've got. I mean, this is, for me. I am so delighted that we've even got the 3, and the fact that the animation isn't that bad, but the fact we're introduced to the Cybermen, the fact this fella delivers a stellar performance and then he goes out on such a high, and it's there for us to love and treasure. I'm going to say we're lucky. We're lucky.
Very lucky. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, had the BBC's original archiving plan taken place, and was carried through, at the very most, we would now have 20 black and white episodes of Doctor Who, 10 from Hartnell, 10 from Troughton, and that would be it.
Oof. It doesn't bear thinking about, does it? It really, really doesn't. Before we get to scores on the TARDIS doors, again, just to give a big shout as well to the show. I want to say a big shout out to these two. I mean, just fantastic. Michael and Anika here just carrying a lot of the show here. And it is very much a case of, because of these two, this is a different episode as well, isn't it? I mean, this isn't where it started 3 years previously. This is something different. This is new. This is being, literally the show's being born again here with these two. And I know they don't stay for long into the new era, but they do a phenomenal job. I just wanted to give my opinion on that.
This is their 3rd story, but only kind of 2nd story as proper companions. And already they've made an impact,
Yeah, absolutely. If you're new to us here on Who's Views, what we do when we do our reviews is I asked the panel, and then I asked you guys to give your marks out of 10 for this particular story. So get ready, start putting them into the chat, because we're at that time now, actually, guys. It's time for scores on the TARDIS doors. Oh, wow, this is going to be interesting in this one as well, isn't it? So start putting your ASG saying yes, look, Craze and Wills are both very good. They carry episode 3, says Stephen Braddock. Absolutely. And Mark Milford saying to us, 10th Planet Legacy is how many times the Cybermen have been copied for 59 years. And not just in Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Such a anyway, so there we go on that one. But yes, Paul Rose also saying to us they were both great companions. Shame we don't get that caliber now. We're not. Start putting your scores out of 10 for your scores of the TARDIS doors into the chat, please, everybody. Stephen Braddock saying to us here, film is fabulous. Said before Christmas that they were astounded at the amount of BBC stuff that didn't go to landfill. So there's hope. Hopefully there is, absolutely.
Yes. But it's been such a long time since we got Web of Fear in the world. I think it must be, is it 14
more than 10 years?
10 years, yeah. 10
more than 10 years.
12 years. 12 years.
Doesn't it go quick?
Yeah.
Doesn't it go quick? Thanks for your super chat, Lex. Nothing beats the original Cybermen from original Doctor Who. The modern Cybermen look like RoboCop and Iron Man, as we were saying last week. Emilio was pointing out that they look like Iron Man, the newer ones. Yeah. I'm not familiar with, but
on the point of the BBC sending material to landfill, depending on what format it was, decommissioned programs would either be junked or destroyed, wiped. Wiped was when it was on videotape and the tape was physically wiped, the program disappeared. If a film copy, a 16mm film print of a program was junked, what happened was they're normally stored on like a little core. Somebody would pop the core out of the middle of the reel and the film would just cascade outwards into a bin or something like that. Now, we know a lot of film reels, even though they were scheduled to be junked like that, didn't happen because BBC employees went, I'm having that. Nobody else did it. And even if, the reel was popped out, because I've done it myself, it is very, very straightforward to get either a core or a film reel and just wind it back on again. Now, providing a film stored properly, all the stories about film turning to mush and all the rest of it, providing it stored properly, film will last for decades upon decades upon decades. There's films from the 1910s, 1920s, which still exist and still perfectly projectable, particularly black and white film, because colour film, the colour component is then printed on top of a black and white image. And it's the colour pigment that then degenerates over time. So black and white film, providing it's stored properly and in the right atmospheric conditions, will last for a very, very long time. I've got prints of films myself that are 60 plus years old and they're all absolutely fine.
There you go. You see, it's amazing, isn't it? The only problem that I would reckon they would have now is that if a BBC employee from back in the 60s does have something because they worked on it and they have in effect saved something, whether it be Doctor Who or Hancock or whatever it's going to be, right? Dad's Army, whatever. And they pass on. The family suddenly know, there's money in this. And that's where BBC Studios can sometimes fall down, isn't it? To be able to say, "Ooh, we're not going to pay you what you want for that."
I mean, a point in case on that one, when episode 2 of Dalek Master Plan appeared, it was an ex-BBC employee who had the print.
Yeah. And I don't blame them. I don't blame them for taking it if it was being thrown out. But if they've worked on it, I would have done the same.
Yeah, and he also had an episode of the Daleks, which wasn't as widely reported, which was actually a better quality copy than the one that the BBC held.
Interesting, yeah.
But of course, all the media attention was focused on the Dalek Master Plan episode. But he kept them because he liked the Daleks, and there were 2 Dalek episodes which were about to be binned.
Yeah.
You just don't know what's in somebody's loft somewhere, do you?
And so imagine how many technicians did that, and then multiply it by how many. It must. The mind boggles, doesn't it? So
it does, yeah. I still think, as I said in the show, I think 10 Planet 4 is out there somewhere, and I think it's going to come back at some point. I really do. Whether or not we're all around to see it, I don't know. But I think it's out there, and I think it's in collectors' hands. That's all I'm saying on that one.
Well, if it is, the chances are it is being very well looked after.
Absolutely, because collectors are there to collect, as we do with all our merchandise.
Yes, and preserve
it, in special circumstances, don't they? I love it all. All right, then where are we? Scores on the TARDIS door. I'm going to start with you, Paul. Out of 10, what are you going to give the 10th planet?
I love this story. Some lovely moments in it. I do miss the fact that Hartnell's not in part 3, and I wish we had episode 4. But I'm very fond of this episode, really. But I would say 8 out of 10. I think
8 out of 10. Okay, lovely. All right, then, George. What about you?
I think it's a fantastically strong piece of drama, very tense. The Cybermen, arguably this is the best iteration of them ever. Still hasn't been beat. Just out and out eeriness about them, and the whole body horror thing, I think, just works so well. Great performances from everybody. Terrific use of the resources that they've got available. It doesn't take away from the story. I do think it's a shame that Hartnell didn't get that last hurrah where he could, have a really big final moment. I think such a shame that circumstances meant that he had a low-key departure, and I don't think that does him justice for everything that he did for the show and the legacy that he created. But that aside, one of the big yardsticks I always measure anything by is repeatability. I've watched something and think, would I watch that again? 10th Planet, yeah, I watched it yesterday. It's not going to be the last time I watch it. I will enjoy it just as much as I did yesterday. The next time I watch it, the time after that, the time after that, the time after that. And I'm so glad that we've got the 3 episodes. And like you, JT, I live in hope that episode 4 is out there somewhere and it's going to come to the surface at some point. So yes, a really good example of how to do it properly, and it's a 9 out of 10 for me.
9 out of 10 from George. Thank you for putting all your scores on the TARDIS doors into the chat. Keep it going. For myself, I love the 10th Planet, and part of it, I think, was the thrill of eventually being able to see it. When it was released and just being, oh my goodness, because I hadn't seen it even at conventions. I hadn't seen it at all. So I remember that Monday night when I bought it and I took it home and devoured it and just loved it. I love the fact that for me, as well as a kid of the 70s, it's recognizable Doctor Who. I find some of the William Hartnell ones can be a little bit of a struggle for me, simply because it's that sort of time of television. I love them, but I can, do you know what I mean? It's sort of like,
it's his own thing, isn't it? It's very different, isn't it, from some of the later stuff?
Yes. It's like a piece of theatre as well a lot of the time.
I mean, well made as they are, I do engage less as a rule with the historical stories than the sci-fi stories.
Oh, really?
But with 10th Planet, for me, this is a format that I recognize and I like it. And I like the coziness of it. I love everything about the production. I love the set designs. I love the direction for the most part. I really do. I love the effects. I love the design of the Cybermen. I love the firsts that are all in it. I love Hartnell's performance. I love the region. I love it all. It's getting a 10 from me. I love the 10th Planet. I can go back and watch it at any time. Quite cozy with a cup of tea. I love the 10th Planet. 10 out of 10. Let's go and see what you guys are saying in the chat, shall we, everybody? Bill Lowry is giving this a 9 out of 10 due to the missing episode, despite the excellent animation. But what a great job they did on it. Had they done some poor animation like they do today, in my reckoning, I don't think I would have liked that episode 4. But this one is good. It's nice, standard, good, proper animation. And why did they change it? Oh, we know why. 10 out of 10 from Jason Parker, plus so much more. There is so much in this story. There really is, isn't there? Julie Wendy is giving it a 10 out of 10, saying it's great stuff. Mark 8 rate, 9 out of 10. Hartnell exits on an absolute high. Good scores here for everybody. Legion of James, 8 out of 10. Story, acting, and delivery are all exceptional. John Roberts, 10 out of 10. I love it. TARDIS Travels, 9 out of 10. Sean Cryer, 9 out of 10. It's a fabulous story. John Steed, 11 out of 10, as it was Hartnell at his best. He's just brilliant in it. It really does go out on a high. 9 out of 10 from Paul Rose, creepy Cybermen as they should be. And Craig is saying 8 out of 10 for the iconic look of the original Cybermen. David, strong 8 out of 10, only because we can't enjoy episode 4 in full appreciation. Oh, bless. Mark Milford is giving it a 10 out of 10 for the perfect 10th planet. And Domgo is saying it could only be a 10. It's a stone wall classic. Tardy Spiders has joined us saying, hello, chat. Hi, JT. Hi, Paul.
Hello.
Hello, you. How are you? And what? Oh, look at this one. Stephen Braddock, easy one for me. Landmark story, Hartnell on top form. Everyone at top of their game. The plot, the acting, the effects, and the arrival of the Cybermen. It's an absolute classic. 10 out of 10. Boomer Doug, nice to see you. 10 out of 10 for Ted Planet. Late to the party, but I love your retrospectives. Thank you very much. It's nice to see you, and I'm glad you've given it 10 out of 10. Excellent. Excellent. Douglas Smith is saying 8 out of 10. Golden Age Geek, you're there as well. Hello, you. How are you? 10 out of 10. Fabulous. Ark in Space is giving it 9 out of 10. Hartlow's great. The Cybermen are creepy as hell, but I like other Cybermen stories more. And he points to the Troughton era. You're going to love it next Wednesday then, aren't you? 8 out of 10, says Graham. Possibly 9, but trying to keep it real. So let's say 8. And Daleks Are Forever are saying 9 out of 10. Sheila B. and the Devotions, 10 out of 10. It's my favourite story of the Hartnell years. It's the one I go back to more, actually, as well, Sheila B. It's weird. I just go to that one. If I want to have a Hartnell one, I'll go to the 10th Planet. It's very strange. And
Time Meddler's my one, I would say.
Yeah.
Is it really? I like this one more than Time Meddler. I really do.
I have to admit, it's Time Meddler for me as well. That's my favourite Hartnell.
There you go. Carwin is saying to us 10 out of 10 for the 10th Planet. Moves at pace. My favourite Cyberman story. Desperate to survive, not just invading. That's a good point. We didn't talk about that. They're there to survive. They're there to try and rescue us. It's not just about an invasion. They want to take us with us and destroy the Earth. Yeah. Good point. Robin, what are you saying to us, Robin? I'm not usually a fan of space stations, but I do like the formula. Cybermen arrive, take over, get defeated, ×2. It's repeated in the moon base, plus Hartnell's finale, 8.5 out of 10. SG, 9 out of 10. Isn't it amazing, guys? 59 years. High scores. Very high scores. This is what I'm saying about the magic of proper quality Doctor Who from the original era, the proper era, stands the test of time. 59 years later, and we're getting it anywhere between 8 and 10 out of 10 on our little show. Amazing. Lex, 10 out of 10. Excellent first appearance of the Cybermen. Opening scene amazing, and first regeneration scene amazing with mystery. It's true adventure and escapism. That's well put. Well put. John Mason, 9 out of 10. Very claustrophobic and atmospheric. Great cast and a chilling story. And hello to Lee Patton. Nice to see you. 9. This is one of my top 5 Hartnell stories. Ooh, now I'm intrigued. What are the others? Jason Parker saying to us 10 out of 10 plus much more. The story has so many elements. We had yours, didn't we, Jason? New epic monsters of regeneration, which made the show continue so much more. Absolutely. Thank you for that one. Oh, Julianne's popping her score on the TARDIS story in as well. 10 out of 10. A first for the Cybermen, a first for regeneration, a beautiful performance from William Hartnell, the original Doctor. Hashtag Hartnell first. You know where we stand on this channel with all that nonsense. Peter is with us. Hello, Peter Davis. 10 out of 10. Hartnell FTW. What's that mean?
I don't know.
Peter, I'm intrigued. What's FTW? We're not down with the kids. But let us know. What else we got here?
We're Kirsty when we need her. So.
I know, yeah. Bless her. Paul Stanford, the 10th Planet is fantastic. The Cybermen look amazing. Such an atmospheric story with great performances, particularly by the brilliant William Hartnell. A 9 out of 10. And Farsight, hello to you. Definitely a 10 out of 10 for me. Absolutely. Any more for any more? Let's have a scroll down and see. What else we got? Any more? Oh yeah, we've got Peter Venkman fan site. Hiya! 10 out of 10. Great story, great atmospheric tension, Hartnell's bittersweet parting, and great acting. I love the fact there's a lot of love for this. Toonami is saying it's very different that era. Doctor Who was a kids show. It was a family show. It was a family show as well. Yeah.
But I do think this is where it starts to get more adult, from here on, definitely, or from the War Machines anyway,
Well, it certainly is, but also it doesn't patronize the kids because it's still able to, the youngsters are still able to watch it. And I like that. It grows up just that little bit and they're still accessible to anybody that wants to watch it.
Although a Dalek Master Plan's got a huge adult content as well. Lots of deaths, lots of space adventure, which is great.
But that's what kids like, don't they?
Yeah.
And the fact that these monsters like the Cybermen and everybody was scaring them, they love that. Kids, we needed that as kids. We needed those thrills. We needed those scares. This is where it really starts to come in now. This is the that whole monster fest on the way, of course, with the 10th Planet. Daryl is saying to us 10 out of 10. Great villains, important story. And if you haven't seen Daryl's version of a 10th Planet Cybermen, then you really need to, because it's very, very scary, actually. But brilliant. Don't get me wrong. The low budget, says Paul Rose, and the limited sets meant for creative writing, atmosphere, and a cozy feel to them, as JC says. Great stuff. You don't need Marvel overblown CGI all the time. Yeah, do you want to put the note through? Yeah. I don't think anybody's in at the moment, though, if you know what I mean. What else we got there? Oh, no. Toonami saying, I paid 800 quid once to some guy who said he had 10th Planet Part 4 and the tape was blank. You are kidding me. Please tell me you're kidding me. Oh, no, I shouldn't be laughing in case it's true. Stop it. Let's have a look. Stephen Braddock saying, 59 years ago and averaging 9 out of 10, wiping the floor with 2025. Yeah. Oh, I did get my money back, thankfully, says Toonami. Well, for you, I'm not even going to ask how. Anyway, Dalek Lives Matter. 9 out of 10. Thoroughly entertaining. Good. Oh, look at this, Paul. For the win.
Oh, okay.
There we go. And they're all telling me it's for the win. Look at this.
Oh, I see. Right. Okay. Right.
They're more.
You learn something new every day. Every day's a school day.
Every day's a school day.
Thanks, guys. I absolutely love that. Brilliant. I don't think we're going to get any more on that one for Scores and the TARDIS Store. So thank you so much, everybody, for that. And I'm glad you've enjoyed it. Oh, do you know what? I might have to go and watch it again, to be quite honest, everybody, because I love the 10th Planet. It's going to be, it is such one of those stories where I'm going to get word perfect on it one day. Honestly, it's going to be in there. This is, of course, another entry, our second episode in our celebration of the Cybermen. As I have said, next Wednesday here on the channel, live at 8 o'clock. Go and get your copy of this. We are going to be into Patrick Troughton's time as we look at the invasion. It's the invasion next week. More animation for us, of course, on that one. I think that's all on the iPlayer as well, isn't it, guys?
It is, yeah.
Guessing so, yeah.
You've probably all got it on blooming VHS and DVD anyway, so go and look at that and come and join us for the invasion. I can't wait for that. It's going to be a cracker.
If you got on VHS, you'll have those lovely Nick Courtney links.
You know? Yes.
Let's watch.
The Doctor and Jamie escape. Here's episode 4.
Yeah. Is the pub open yet? Bless him.
Just make the check to cash. Don't tell the agent.
Exactly. Yes. Stephen Braddock is saying to us that was a very nostalgic, warm, fuzzy episode tonight. Really, really good about that. And yes, you're all getting into it already, aren't you? Yes, you've got to watch the invasion. So come and join us for that. And as I say, we've got a lot more to come as part of this cyber celebration. Woo! Cyber celebration as we get ready for their big 6-0 next year. Nothing wrong with starting it early, I thought, but there you go. No. So yeah, thanks for joining us tonight. To Paul and to George, thank you for coming to talk about the 10th Planet.
A pleasure.
Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely
I loved it. Thank you very much. Yeah.
And then SG is saying to us, find them, Packer, find them. And that's where we'll leave it for tonight, everybody. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up, give us a like, and of course, subscribe to the channel. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you to everybody that's subscribing at the moment. It's absolutely wonderful. Oh, just as a sneaky off point as well, if you're not doing anything this Friday night, come back and join us for our Valentine's show, February the 14th, 2025. We're going to be looking at what else? Carry On Loving. If you're a Carry On fan, come and join us live at 8 o'clock, where we're going to go all kissy and head down to the Wedded Bliss Agency. That's an aside. And of course, we'll be back on Sunday for headlines as well. Lots already being packed into that episode. But until we see you again on Who's Views, from Paul, from George, and myself, ta-ra, take care of yourself, everybody. See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.